Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Was the Son of Thor Movie 2. Before we start, please go support Oza 137,788 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. Chapter 23. I'll be honest, Sakura. I think if Satsuki is in this world, she must already be in a grave, Naruto said, taking a sip of the drink he had ordered at the restaurant he and the pink-haired girl were in. It took the young people hours to find their way out of the cave they were trapped in, a place that tested their Asgardian endurance to the limit. It was clear that no ordinary human could have crossed it in a single attempt as they had. Upon leaving, they came upon a meadow that was only slightly less dangerous than the ruins. Nevertheless, the young men didn't hesitate to use their distinctive flying techniques to reach the port the blonde man had located. The place was a complete hive of activity, a bustling commercial area teeming with merchants selling mostly unfamiliar wares. Nothing that bothered them, but at least they weren't feeling bankrupt as they'd stumbled across a couple of chests of money while exploring the ruins. It made no sense why they were there, but they decided not to waste it, and with it, they were able to afford their first decent meal. Just because Tsukahime had provided them with food didn't mean they knew how to cook it properly. I don't rule out that possibility, but I'm still confident I'll find him, the girl replied. What do you propose we do? Naruto asked. I imagine Satsuki has been busy training or seeking power. Originally, she was obsessed with getting revenge on her brother. Brother? I thought she had a sister. No. Satsuki's brother was Itachi. In the end, he was a good man. Even though he was one of those responsible for the Uchiha clan massacre, Itachi always thought of the well-being of his village and his sister. It's a real shame that disease consumed him. I can imagine. Anyway, we need to find some place where she could train or something like that. It's a somewhat vague objective. At least we can count on that. The demigods decided to stay at an inn in order to better organize their search in Balfenheim, which was the name of the port. For this, they not only asked passers-by and merchants, but also consulted the libraries and bookstores scattered throughout the town. They learned a little about the history of that world and its customs. It was a relatively peaceful place, since war was practically taboo. There was no point in people killing each other when they were surrounded by such dangerous creatures. That was why all the army-like organizations had as their main purpose defending the villages from potential threats. Sakura considered it unlikely that Satsuki would join any of those groups, although for her the most logical thing was for the Uchiha to be an independent hunter who only cared about the rewards offered for the elimination of certain monsters. After 3 days, things had become rather boring for Naruto, so he began to research other topics. He discovered that chakra wasn't very common in that place, and most people advocated for the use of weapons like his own and a strange art they called magic. This was a subject beyond his grasp, as it seemed to involve very precise manipulation of spiritual energy, and his chakra control didn't cover that area. I hope you find that Uchiha soon. This mission is really getting on my nerves, Kurama said to the boy as they walked along the docks. I'd like to put an end to it too, but I have to admit that this whole trip has been fun. No. It hasn't been, said the fox with a sour face. Hey you, Naruto heard. A quick glance around allowed him to locate the owner of that voice. It was a bald man with dark skin and sailor clothes. Do you know how to use that thing? The man said, pointing at Naruto's weapon. Yes. Why do you ask? I need a couple of swords for a small expedition I'm starting right now. It won't take more than a couple of days. Interesting. What do you say, Kurama? I'll pass. The sea isn't my element. Would you mind letting Sakura know I'll be out? No. Then I'll see you later, said Naruto as he boarded the man's ship. Hours later. At least I hope Naruto has better luck than me. I have no idea where to begin. This place is huge and has at least 5 times the number of settlements as the Shinobi continent, Sakura said to the fox when he found her in a map shop. It's a shame my ability to detect negative emotions isn't working. Perhaps you should try a different approach to your search. What do you suggest? I'm just saying that humans tend to find what they're looking for when they least expect it. You just need to relax a little. You're right. It's just that I don't feel able to relax, the girl said with a sigh. Don't you think you've spent too much time on this matter? Said the Kyuubi, drawing the pink-haired girl's attention. Because you said so? Don't take it personally. It's just that it bothers me to see how humans become obsessed with revenge, and it would be a shame to see you succumb to hatred. Do you understand that Satsuki technically also killed your counterpart? I admit I have a strong hatred for all Uchiha, but my case is different. I haven't had the opportunity to do anything about the actions of that kind, but you have. You're right. Maybe I should go hang out in Arcadis. We left because Naruto warned me about those people, but I'm perfectly capable of hiding. In that case, I'll stay near the port. I can't wander around freely. I'm sorry about that. Then Balderdata returned to the inn to announce that they would be vacating the rented rooms. Shortly afterward, she prepared to leave the port by the only land route the town had. It was a little strange for the girl to be surrounded by so many people after her recent training period. However, it was a pleasant sight after everything she had witnessed in her world. "Watch out. Call the guards." The girl heard in the distance. Because of her condition, her senses were much more sensitive than those of a normal human, and she had trained herself to ignore the noises around her and pay closer attention to calls for help like that one. Sakura quickly headed to the docks, where she had heard the call. There she found a squad of men armed with spears and shields, trying to stop a creature she remembered as a Lagicrus. This one, however, was not the same as the one she had faced before. It was much larger and its color was white and light blue. It was an ivory Lagicrus. The Leviathan made a furious turn and threw all the guards into the water, which put the pink-haired woman on alert, since if the creature used its electric shock, those men would literally be fried. Therefore, she didn't hesitate to push aside everyone in front of her to approach the creature and deliver a punch that sent it flying off the pier. Then Sakura dove into the water and ran after it to prevent it from approaching the village again. "Mind your own business, you stupid human. I have no problem with you," roared the Lagicrus, poking its head above the water. "You're attacking those people. That's reason enough for you to test the edge of my sword," the girl said, drawing her weapon. "They're in my way. I must face Asura." "He's no longer at the port," the girl warned, knowing she was referring to Naruto. The white creature then began sniffing the air, much to the girl's bewilderment. "That's true. It was foolish of me not to notice that he's in my element. Please accept my apologies," said the creature before sinking into the sea. Balderdata thought she should follow him, but she was sure Naruto could handle her without any problems. Then he set out to return to land, where he would find the surprised faces of the villagers. "How did you do that? That girl is so strong. She must be an Amazon. Isn't that the doctor from Arcardis?" These were some of the comments Sakura heard, but she chose to ignore them and prepared to leave the village. However, a group of 3 women dressed in Greek-style metal armor approached him. "Excuse us for bothering you, brave warrior, but we cannot overlook such a display of strength," commented a blonde girl. "It was nothing. I just felt I had to act. Well, I think it was a waste that she saved those useless men, but I'm glad she showed that we are the strongest." "Us?" "The female Hex, of course. You see, the 3 of us belong to a group of warriors dedicated to proving to the world that we are as strong as, or even stronger than, men. We call ourselves the Amazons, and we are interested in warriors as strong as you." Sakura wasn't even remotely surprised. Her father had already told her about the Valkyries, and it didn't surprise her that a female group with those characteristics existed. "I'm sorry. Your work sounds interesting, but I'm looking for someone, and I can't get sidetracked," Sakura replied, trying not to be rude. "We are in a position to help you. Our group includes the best psychics in all of Spira, and they can assist you with your search. Perhaps this will change your mind." Okay. Where do I have to go?" Sakura said, accepting the offer. She had already read about those psychics, and perhaps that would help her. The next day. After a long flight, Sakura reached the Blue Moon Jungle, home of the warriors who were supposed to help her. The Amazons gave her a letter of recommendation to deliver at the entrance of the temple she would be visiting. They couldn't accompany her because they had a mission to complete and the journey was too long to deviate from. Indeed, if Balderdata hadn't known how to fly, it would have taken her a couple of days to reach her destination. Sakura was amazed by the sight of the Blue Moon Temple, which had a Greek style due to the white columns that made up most of the structure. Before she could reach the gate guarding the entrance, the girl passed through a translucent light blue barrier that sent a slight tingle through her. It wasn't made of chakra. That much was clear. All she knew was that it was designed to keep any man out. At the entrance, I presented the letter to the guards, who were dressed in the same armor as the other women. After a few minutes of inspection, one of the guards looked for someone to guide Sakura through the place. The volunteer for the task was an orange-haired woman who appeared to be in her 20s. Her hair was tied in 2 pigtails, and she wore an orange top and a long pink skirt. "Good morning. I am Priestess Vanildia, and I am pleased to welcome you to the Blue Moon Temple." "Good morning, my name is Sakura Balderdata. I'm also pleased to have been invited here." The pink-haired girl was sincere in her words. The place was truly wonderful to her. The vegetation was in harmony with the infrastructure, giving the place an extremely vibrant appearance, something very different from the wastelands that resulted from her battle with Akatsuki. The 2 girls then began walking while Sakura observed everything around her. It was true that there were only women in that place. The clothing varied greatly among the inhabitants. From all kinds of armor to outfits that looked more like swimsuits because of how revealing they were. "According to your letter of recommendation, you're looking for someone and you want our psychics to assist you. Is that correct?" "That's right. We really have no problem helping a sister, but I'd like to know who you're looking for. We have certain protocols. I understand my request might sound strange, but I need to find a girl who's roughly my age. She murdered a friend of mine a while ago, and I've been searching for her. I see. Usually, these requests are to find unfaithful ex-boyfriends or those guilty of atrocities best left unmentioned, but what you're asking for is also a just cause. We can't ignore the fact that one of us hurts another, Vanille said firmly. Thank you for understanding. Both advanced through the area until they reached the vicinity of a structure resembling a planetarium. This is our divination room. We use the stars as conduits for our magic, giving us insight into what's happening across Spire. Can they see the entire continent? There are still places beyond our reach, but at least we've made sure the Blue Moon jungle is completely under our watchful eye. We don't want another mishap like the one a few years ago. What are you talking about? It's something private, I'm sorry, the Redeed apologized. Don't worry, Sakura replied, allowing herself to be guided to the doors of the place. Priestess Vanille. Someone said, approaching the pair. I've been looking for you. I need your permission to. Then the girl fell silent and a huge tension formed among those present. Sakura couldn't believe her eyes. Standing before her was the one she'd been searching for. Satsuki Uchiha. She was almost a carbon copy of Sasuke's sister, with the same onyx eyes and black hair that reached halfway down her back. It was clear she had been in that dimension for many years, as her body was much more developed, making her appear older than 20. Elder daughter had resisted attacking Setsuna during the Chunin exams, knowing she wasn't the one she was after, but now the situation was very different. The astonishment and fear that Satsuki began to show in her eyes made it clear that she was indeed the one she sought. The dark-haired woman, dressed in a blue kai-pao and black shorts, was unable to react to the punch Sakura threw at her face. "Tsuki-san." Vanille exclaimed in fear as she saw her companion thrown against a solid rock wall. Similarly, the commotion caught the attention of several Amazons who were nearby. Sakura prepared to draw her sword and approach the cloud of dust enveloping Satsuki. She had struck her with great force, but not enough to kill her in one blow. Then a red flash alerted her, and she had to step aside to avoid the blast of Amaterasu aimed at her. The Mangekyo Sharingan, resembling an atom, once again confirmed the identity of the Uchiha, who rose unharmed from the rubble. She dusted herself off and adjusted the ponytail that formed her hairstyle. "It's been so long, Sakura-chan. How have you been?" Satsuki said arrogantly. "Very well. How are you, assassin?" "I can't complain." Moments later, to everyone's astonishment, both girls vanished from their spots and collided in midair with great ferocity. Satsuki used a Chidori, and Sakura used her light-coated sword. "So, what are you doing around here? On vacation, perhaps?" said the Uchiha. "I am here to do justice." "That's strange. What am I being accused of?" the dark-haired woman said innocently. "You dare to play with that? I'm here to avenge Naruto." "Oh. That's it. I'm sorry, I just can't remember such insignificant things." Sakura then intensified her attack, creating an explosion that engulfed both her and her enemy. They both fell to the ground, covered in the smoke from the blast, and quickly regrouped to exchange attacks once more. "I don't really like putting on a show, so why don't we go somewhere more private?" Satsuki said, enveloping herself in a dark aura that also enveloped Sakura. Warp. They both found themselves transported to a kind of canyon where the rocks were gray and had a massive appearance. The sky was overcast with a storm that seemed about to break at any moment, and something told her that her enemy hadn't brought her there by chance. "Tendaga!" Satsuki exclaimed, her hands glowing yellow as a lightning bolt struck Sakura. Sakura used her sword like a lightning rod to deflect the attack, striking a nearby rock that was instantly melted by the impact. Her training with Naruto had finally paid off. "You'll need a lot more if you want to stop me from achieving my goal, Satsuki." "I'm sure of it. Especially when I see that you're still as unique as I remember you being," the dark-haired woman replied from atop a stone wall. "You're no slouch yourself. You've grown very strong. Too strong for my liking. How many people have you killed for that power you craved so much?" "Less than you can imagine. What's more, I got part of it in a rather unexpected way," the girl said with a strange mocking laugh. "But that's none of your business." "Faraga," the Uchiha said, surrounding Sakura with a blaze of fire that began to melt the nearby rocks. "Suiton." "Water barrier," replied the Belda daughter, surrounding herself with a huge mass of liquid that dissipated the attack. "Dodori Senbin," the girl said, unleashing a barrage of electric projectiles that Sakura didn't bother to dodge, but instead blocked with her arms. That lightning release didn't have the power to damage her armor. "It's useless," Sakura said, then launched a beam of light towards Satsuki. She avoided it and then made sure to breathe in enough air. "Enten." "Great fireball," said Satsuki as she launched a fireball infused with Amaterasu. "Earth release." "Golem technique." Sakura said, forming a colossal rock structure that rose from the ground and took the full force of the earth release. Golem technique. Explosive arrival. Sakura commanded, causing the structure to self-destruct and its rocks to be flung out, along with Satsuki, who leaped off the cliff to avoid the flaming projectiles. Quackra. Satsuki used to shatter the rock beneath her, creating an avalanche that crashed down on Sakura. Araga, she exclaimed, unleashing a powerful gust of wind that trapped the girl and the rocks in a tornado. Let's finish this. Kirin. Satsuki said, using Chidori to direct lightning across the sky, unleashing a massive lightning dragon. The Uchiha's combo was more than enough to make the landscape tremble and be severely scarred. Although the weather in Jose Ravine, where they were, was prone to thunderstorms, the Kirin was enough to clear the skies. I'm sorry, Sakura, but I can't allow you to ruin what I've built. And you think I'll let you get away with your actions? Sakura said, grabbing Satsuki by the neck, who didn't have time to react. How did you escape? It's one of my tricks. Not even the Sharingan can detect when a body is moving at the speed of light, the pink-haired woman said, sounding somewhat exhausted. That movement was very demanding for her. Well, I still have a couple up my sleeve, Satsuki said, covering herself in purple flames that gave rise to the ribs of her Susanoo. The pink-haired girl had no choice but to let go when she felt the caustic properties of the technique. It was then that she was surprised by an arm of the skeletal being that turned black before striking Sakura with a blow that sent her flying through the canyon. Damn it. That was Buzushoku Haki, thought Belder daughter as she got up from the rubble. I'm not finished, Satsuki said, concentrating her Susanoo and giving it 2 arms. Faraga Fury, she said, and her hands, like those of her creation, unleashed a rapid succession of fire spells upon Sakura. The demigoddess maneuvered nimbly to dodge the incendiary bursts erupting at her feet. One false step and she would be caught in her enemy's attack. Her resilience paid off when the Uchiha stopped her technique after she had launched more than 20 Faraga. It was then that she intensified her offensive. Secret technique. Cherry Blossom Petal Storm, Sakura said, performing a large number of slashes in the air and unleashing a whirlwind of light beams that shone with a particular pink hue. Satsuki tried to shield herself with her Susanoo, but unfortunately, it allowed things like sound and light to pass through, so she was completely hit by the wave of petals, which triggered a powerful explosion. When the smoke cleared, Sakura was surprised to see the Uchiha still standing. Visibly exhausted and injured, but still able to fight, as her defiant face showed. That can't be. It's impossible that you're still conscious after receiving my attack. What can I say? I discovered I'm more special than I thought, the raven-haired girl said arrogantly. Sakura was about to launch a swift attack when, without warning, she noticed the Uchiha appear beside her. Warp, she said, then aimed at the armored young woman. Stop, Satsuki said, covering her opponent with magic that left her completely paralyzed. Let's talk for a while. I've been away from the shinobi continent for quite some time, and I'm curious to know what became of it without me. I have nothing to say to you, Sakura said, clearly annoyed at being unable to move her body. She could barely speak. Don't be so grumpy, Satsuki chided her. I admit I was startled to see you, since our last encounter wasn't very pleasant. How could it be? You killed Naruto. It's rude to interrupt, the Uchiha questioned. As I was saying, I was startled when I saw you, however, now that I think about it, this has been the best thing that's happened to me. Well, it would be more like the 5th best. There are other things that have been better and more important to me, Satsuki rambled a bit. Anyway, your presence will answer a few questions I've been asking myself. I have nothing to say to you. Rather, you need to explain how you ended up in this dimension, Sakura demanded. Have you ever fallen down a flight of stairs, Sakura? Huh? That's what I felt when I ended up here. One day I was training with Hibiko when I suddenly felt like I was struck by something almost indescribable. When I woke up, I was here in Spira. It was terrifying, because all those monsters wanted to eat me, but I was lucky enough to stumble upon a group of Amazons who took me in. I've spent almost 10 years training in the arts they've mastered. Magic and hockey. As you've seen, I'm very good. That doesn't explain how you've become so resilient. There's no way you could have withstood my attacks like that. It's a rather embarrassing matter, and as a woman, I hope you understand that I can't go around telling everyone, Satsuki said, blushing slightly. What I can tell you is that, as a result of a certain event, my magical powers rose to a level I never dreamed of, and my body can withstand more than any other human could. I almost feel like I'm like you, Sakura. What are you talking about? Sakura asked, sounding a little nervous. You don't have to hide it. It's a fact that you're special, Sakura. I'm not talking about simple things like possessing a Kekkei Genkai. You're something more, and I want to know what that is, Satsuki demanded. I don't know what you're talking about, the pink-haired girl lied. She wouldn't give the Uchiha the satisfaction of her knowing about her lineage. Speak. The Uchiha demanded once again. Don't even dream about it. I have no deal with you, Satsuki Uchiha. The only thing you can expect from me is for me to pierce your heart with my sword. Why are you still bothering her? Satsuki exclaimed, furious. First you had the nerve to steal all my glory when I was on Team 7, and now you're belittling me with someone who's just a corpse. Even in that state she's worth more than you, traitor. The Uchiha's face could only be described as sinister, not only because of her furious expression, but also because of the dark aura surrounding her. It was obvious to Sakura that envy was gnawing at her, as it always had. However, the feeling it gave her this time was much heavier and more unsettling. Sakura was furious at her enemy's presence and the fact that she was being held captive, but she wasn't at a point where her common sense was compromised. Therefore, the immense fury that began to fill her mind worried her. It was like a poison coursing through her system, and she had no way to stop it. I'll ask you one last time. What is it that makes you so special, Sakura? Satsuki said, preparing a chidori. Sakura said nothing. Instead, her paralyzed body emitted broken gasps. Answer me. Satsuki demanded before being surprised by a wave of chakra. To his horror, Sakura had broken free from her spell and showed no intention of embracing him. Instead, her gaze was vacant and her features displayed the fury of a primal beast. Sakura remembered those characteristics very well. That's how Sakura had reacted when she killed the Swordsman of the Mist and when she defeated Shukaku's Jinchuriki. The big problem was that her target was almost certainly her. Satsuki raised her Susanoo to block Sakura's violent slash. The attack was barely withstood by the construct's ribs and shattered the ground beneath them. Stop, she used again to stop the pink-haired girl. However, with the same speed with which she paralyzed her, her opponent dispelled the spell. Elder daughter then threw her sword like a harpoon at the dark-haired woman, who could only dodge the projectile that was thrown at full speed due to a warp she performed at the last moment. The sword destroyed the rock as if it were a bomb, due to the force imprinted in its launch, which disconcerted the Uchiha because she could not perceive that her opponent applied chakra in his blows. He was grateful for his mastery of Kenbushoku Haki because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to dodge Sakura's savage blows and movements. From full body charges to simply hurling the surrounding boulders, she left him with absolutely no room to counterattack or even cast a spell and escape. Eventually, Sakura's blows became unpredictable for the Uchiha's skill, and without warning, she received a headbutt from Elder daughter, who then delivered a kick that threw her against a cliff in the distance. Her strength is beyond my expectations. I can't beat her in this condition, Satsuki thought, feeling several broken ribs. Just then, she saw Sakura retrieve her weapon and prepare to launch another attack. Work, she said, using her spell to escape the attack that further devastated the area. But the Uchiha out of the area, Sakura's anger had no target and without her regaining consciousness, she fell unconscious, a victim of the exhaustion that struck her body. Chapter 24. Sakura. Sakura. Naruto said repeatedly to try and get the armored girl to react. Naruto. The girl replied as she regained consciousness. What happened? She said, sitting up. That's what I'm asking you. Did you get into a fight or something? This place is a total mess. I was fighting Satsuki, the girl said, suddenly snapping out of her daze. Where is she? She exclaimed, abruptly getting to her feet to find only the wreckage left by their previous battle. I only found you. There's no one else. But. Sakura's words stopped and she lost her balance, but Naruto reacted and caught her before she fell. Are you okay? Yes. It's just that my head hurt so much, she said, putting her hand to her forehead. I don't know what happened. She was demanding that I answer a question, and suddenly I lost track of reality. You need to rest. No. I must get him, Elder daughter said firmly. How did you find me? I can detect climate changes a little. Something in this area caught my attention and I found you. Can you already interact with the environment at that level? More or less. If chakra is involved, I can easily sense it. I apologize for the delay, but Riita's ship was wrecked by an ivory Lagicrus, and I couldn't leave you alone. It was my fault, the girl scolded herself. Wait, did you say late? How long has it been? 1 day since I felt the disturbance. Damn it. I have to hurry and go get her. How far are we from the Blue Moon Jungle? A little. It's about 100 kilometers away. That will be our destiny, the girl said, trying to compose herself. You can't fight under those conditions. My energy is fine. I've rested enough, the girl claimed. I don't think you quite understand who you're facing, Naruto said seriously. There are remnants of Satsuki's chakra left, and they have a characteristic I've only ever seen in one other person. What do you mean? Each person and clan has a distinctive chakra signature. I can easily distinguish you from the Sakura who was my partner because your chakra is much brighter than anyone else's. I suppose it's because of my father. That's where my deduction comes from. The chakra I sense here is completely dark and I can say it's also somewhat nauseating. No way. The girl exclaimed, stunned. You're saying Satsuki is. She is likely also Loki's daughter. She is Shinji's sister. In the Tsukahime dimension. A certain purple-haired man was drinking his 7th cup of coffee a day when a terrible chill came over him, causing him to spit out his drink. Man, what was that? Jayuki asked. I don't know, but suddenly I feel like I've messed up on a cosmic scale, the boy said, trembling. Back with Naruto and Sakura. That's absurd. How could she possibly be Loki's daughter? The girl said, quite upset. I don't know. I thought Shinji's strange chakra was due to his ability, but now I can think it's also because of his father. It's possible he replaced Fugakura Mikoto or whoever Satsuki's father is, the boy said, somewhat confused by the topic of counterparts. Perhaps she replaced Fugaku, the girl said, pausing to think. But it doesn't make sense. Why didn't she display her powers like we did? Why did Loki never attack my father or me? Perhaps their stay wasn't long enough to find them or teach her about her identity. It's possible, the girl said worriedly. Don't mention anything about it to him. He's stronger than I expected, and telling him about his origins would only inflate his ego and his desire to increase his strength. Okay, Naruto said, then closed his eyes. Now that I know her chakra signature, I can locate her properly. Where is? Several kilometers from here, but to the east. It's in the open sea. Then let's go. Hours later. After rescuing Kurama, Naruto and his companions headed to an archipelago quite far from the mainland. It was a group of islets that were almost completely deserted. Only a small rock formation stood out, resembling the entrance to a cave. She's definitely here. I can't explain how I didn't find her before, Kurama said, noticing the girl's unpleasant presence. He was inside a magical barrier, it's normal that you didn't sense him, Sakura said. Pay attention. His chakra is quite high, Naruto warned. We must stop whatever he's planning, Sakura said, approaching the cave. However, her path was halted when a burst of fire stopped her in her tracks. What? I'm sorry, but I can't let you pass, Satsuki said, appearing a few meters from the group. Well. I see you're in good company, Sakura-chan. Who's your friend? He looks familiar. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the boy said seriously, hiding his surprise at seeing a very well-developed Setsuna. Wow. That's really strange, the girl commented with slight surprise. I'd heard about a Naruto before, but seeing another one so different makes me really curious. It's a shame that your curiosity doesn't stop you from being such an idiot, Uchiha, Sakura said. Always aiming for the wrong things and making the worst decisions. I warned you, Haruno. I don't want to know anything more about Naruto. I don't know if you know this, but for the Mangekyo Sharingan to activate, I need to genuinely grieve the death of that loved one. Their death wasn't something I planned. It was Naruto's fault for not letting me make my own decisions. His stubbornness may have gotten him into a lot of trouble, but that doesn't justify his actions. Maybe yes, maybe no. The only certainty is that what matters now is the present and what we plan for the future. Unfortunately, that doesn't include you and your friend, the dark-haired woman said as the ground trembled slightly. What was that? You're strong, Sakura, and given that you've brought such a peculiar companion, she said, pointing at the fox. I'm going to use a little trick I've been preparing. A dark chakra enveloped the girl. Of course, I'll play with you a bit first. Then Satsuki activated the cursed seal she possessed. Her skin turned grayish, her hair blue, a pair of hand-shaped wings sprouted from her back, and finally, her sclera turned black, revealing the Sharingan. It's been a while since I used this. Let's see how you fare. Blizzaga, she said, surrounding her 3 rivals with massive blocks of ice. Then she took flight and unleashed a barrage of purple Chidori Senbon. The trio freed themselves from the ice and quickly avoided the lethal projectiles that were stuck in the sand. You're too dangerous, so please leave. Teleport, said the Uchiha, approaching Kurama and taking him out of the battle. Damn it, said the fox before falling into the ocean and noticing that he was several kilometers away from his companions. Hyoten. I sarcophagus, said Naruto, then summoned a blizzard that sought to envelop Satsuki in snow. The girl then unsealed a pair of foils, one blue and the other red, both with yellow details and an imposing presence. But the swift spin of her blue weapon, the girl enveloped herself in a ring of fire that dispelled Naruto's technique. Then she launched a line of red dust in his direction with her other sword, which created a chain of explosions that the boy blocked with his greatsword. Sakura didn't bother wondering how the Uchiha had obtained those weapons when she set out to intercept her. The difference in strength between the rivals became evident when the pink-haired girl was able to easily push her opponent away, but the latter responded quickly and created a point-blank explosion that forced Sakura to move aside. The Uzumaki switched to his sword Daora and launched a dozen ice shards at his opponent, who used his wings coated in Busoshoku Haki to defend himself. He then performed Kaiten Fire Dragon to launch a trio of fire projectiles. Naruto then responded using Suiton. water dragon missile to counter the technique. Once Balderdata recovered, she proceeded to use the same Suiton, with which she knocked Satsuki down. There, both Naruto and Sakura were preparing to charge at their opponent when another tremor surprised them. Just a little more. Explosive helix, said the Uchiha, performing a spin with her rapiers and creating a tornado of fire and explosive dust aimed at Sakura. Naruto plunged his sword into the ground, creating an iceberg that stopped the attack before it reached his teammate. She then used the cover to unleash her cherry blossom storm attack on her opponent. Reflect, said Satsuki, to create a barrier that would bound Sakura's technique off her. This has to be a joke, exclaimed the pink-haired girl before receiving her own attack. The number of effects that magic has is illogical, Naruto thought, watching what the spell had done. I'll try something with short range. The blonde boy put away his weapon and approached the girl using his shundo to dodge the bursts of fire and explosive dust that Satsuki began to throw at him. Too fast for my liking. Slow down, the dark-haired girl said to the boy, causing him to start moving very slowly. What is this? Some space-time magic. Explosive helix, he said, throwing a vortex of explosive flames at him. I hope your technique can slow down lightning. Lightning release. Lightning strike, Naruto said, covering himself in electrical chakra to bypass the girl's spell and surprise her from behind. Lightning release. Primary lotus, he said before grabbing her and spinning her around until she crashed to the ground. Orp, Satsuki said, freeing herself before the blonde boy crashed violently to the ground, thus avoiding what was surely going to be a fatal attack. You're crazy. How could you combine such a lethal technique with lightning release chakra? The girl exclaimed, resentful of the chakra's paralyzing effect. It just seemed illogical to me that no one would use this kind of combination, Naruto said, emerging from the crater he had created. Now I'll show you another one of my improvisations, he said before performing a shundo and appearing in front of the girl. Ton, Konoha whirlwind, he said, delivering a spinning kick to the girl's torso that sent her flying in a mini tornado. This guy isn't ordinary either, the girl thought, recovering in midair and feeling the pain of the blow. Maybe I'm not ready to put my plans into action yet. Give up already, Satsuki. You don't stand a chance against both of them, Sakura warned. Don't count on it, the girl replied, only to realize the fox was returning to the battle. Damn it, she said before feeling another tremor. Finally, my shadow clone jutsu fulfilled its purpose, the dark-haired girl said happily, reverting to her original form and watching the cave she had been protecting collapse. A series of tremors swept through the entire area and the sand began to shake due to geysers that originated from the ground. What on earth is this, Satsuki? Sakura exclaimed. You see, Sakura. It's a big mistake to think that the Bijuu are the largest creatures that exist. You're very wrong, brat, Kurama retorted. Want to bet? The Uchiha mocked as the entire area around those present began to crack. Two fangs burst violently from the ground, bringing with them the head of an enormous sea serpent with red rocky skin, its proportions mirroring Kurama's in its original form. However, this approximation fell short when the colossal Raviente completely surrounded them, its massive length exceeding 400 meters. While its eyes seemed to pose the greatest threat, a glimpse into its eyes revealed the true danger. The Sharingan was imprinted upon them. Controlling these creatures is not easy, but having all this power at my disposal makes the effort worthwhile, said Satsuki as she jumped onto the creature's head. What do you plan to do with that thing? Sakura asked. After seeing you and others, I can only think that Spire is nothing more than an alternate world to our own, one that contains a power the ninja villages couldn't possibly handle. My intention is to bring an army of dragons to the shinobi continent and make a few renovations. You can't do that. Those creatures would only cause death and destruction. That's the idea. I want to build a world where there are no wars and all conflicts end. For that to happen, people need to stop seeing each other as enemies and focus on a common goal. I'll have to destroy all the ninja villages, but it's something I'm willing to do. After all, they're the root of all our problems. The best part is that, since I'm one of the only ones who can defeat these creatures, they'll make me their ruler. I always considered you despicable, but this is ridiculous, Satsuki. What I feel is beyond comprehension, Sakura. Now do me the favor of dying, Satsuki said, ordering the Raviente to use its tail to crush its targets. The three split up and prepared their counterattack. Kurama, who had taken on a 20-meter form, prepared a tailed beast ball. Sakura concentrated a large mass of energy in her hands and formed a luminous bow with an arrow as a projectile. And finally, Naruto prepared a baked-in Rasen Shuriken, which, once ready, he launched in conjunction with the other techniques. I think they've forgotten I'm here. Reflect, the girl said before placing her hand on top of the Raviente and summoning a massive barrier above it, resulting in all attacks being repelled and returned to their users, who this time were able to evade them. It's absurd. I've seen opponents absorb chakra, but no one can avoid a technique like that, Sakura said. This spell only works to reflect magic, but after a lot of hard work, I've configured it to also work with ninjutsu, Satsuki said mockingly. Alright. Let's see how well she can repel this, said Naruto, leaping and landing on Satsuki with an Idamura Sengen. Reflect, she said confidently, ready to receive the attack and return the entire shockwave generated by the attack to the blonde man. The jutsu might not work, but I doubt that thing can withstand my sword, Sakura said as she lunged at the Raviente. The creature intercepted Sakura with its fangs, which easily deflected the edge of Sakura's weapon. Then its tamer summoned a Thandaga and knocked the Balderdottir down, which was unable to avoid it because it was airborne. Kurama quickly caught him and pulled him out of his opponent's range, who then launched repeated Fira attacks at them. They may have power, but that creature is very slow, said Kurama, dodging a tail swipe from the Raviente. I can fix that. Haste, Satsuki said, summoning blue magic over the snake. But that spell, the creature gained a speed boost, which it used to pursue Kurama across the ocean. The fox was grateful that he knew how to run on water. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to evade the creature's pursuit. We're at a disadvantage, Kurama warned as he dodged the explosive bursts that Satsuki was launching with her weapons. Not for long, Naruto replied, appearing and striking the beast's head with Otobatarasu's weapon, knocking it off course. The boy then landed on Kurama, who stopped in the water. We need to join forces to deal with that guy. She might be able to repel attacks, but that spell must have a limit and I have something that will definitely break it. Although, to do that, we'll need to increase our size. What are you planning? Sakura asked. Are you going to use Bijuu mode like other Jinchuriki? We can't do something like that, but we still have something just as good, said Kurama. Once the Raviente recovered from the blonde's blow and Satsuki was able to aim at the trio, she summoned a powerful Blizzaga to trap them in an ice prison. It's all over, she said, ordering the creature to crush Fox and his occupants with a full body charge. But that statement was far from true. Kurama and Naruto joined forces so that the latter could use the strongest technique his Mangekyo Rinnegan possessed. Satsuki stopped her attack when she felt the air begin to crackle violently from the static electricity that suddenly appeared. The weather in the area changed dramatically, becoming cloudy and dark. Storm clouds, heavily laden with lightning, formed. The girl wasn't afraid, since her creature could withstand a barrage of these. She hadn't counted on these being merely preparation for Thorson's technique. The bolt of lightning then struck the block of ice, illuminating the area and blinding the girl. When her vision returned, she noticed that neither the block of ice nor the fox on it were there anymore. Before Satsuki and the Raviente stood a translucent giant, 60 meters tall, whose body was shaped like a four-pointed star. It was purple with yellow details. It had long arms ending in knife-like fingers and narrow, crystallized legs. Its face was a small, simple mask located in the center of its body. This was the Aesir, ruler of thunder, and Naruto was inside it with Sakura. Imagine the thunder spirit from Shaman King. What is this? Sakura asked in amazement. It's the result of complete mastery of an element and my answer to techniques like Susanoo, said Naruto. Where is Kurama? This thing needs a lot of chakra. I'll monitor the supply, and the boy will control the technique, the fox said directly to the pink-haired girl's mind. I don't know what that thing is, but it's clear I can't let them wander around there, Satsuki said, recovering from her astonishment at the giant. Attack. She ordered the Raviente, who then launched a fireball that looked like a miniature meteorite. Then Naruto moved his right arm to direct the Aesir and cut the projectile with extreme ease. Catch him. The dark-haired woman demanded, and the snake prepared to encircle the blonde man and his companions. In a flash, he escaped and put a good distance between himself and his opponent. This is an interesting battle, but I can't tolerate you controlling the others like that, Naruto said sternly. His words were followed by several rumbles of thunder from the roaring clouds in the sky. Sakura, hold on. The boy warned. What? She thought, bewildered, since there was nothing in that spectral body. I have a bad feeling, the girl thought, redirecting the Raviente barrier toward herself. Then she formed an incomplete Susanoo and ready to crossbow toward her opponents. Naruto's Aesir raised his right arm, and a dozen lightning bolts fell from the sky, gathering in the giant's palm like a huge spear. Explosive spear of the Thunder Ruler, Naruto said before throwing the projectile at the Raviente. The Uchiha barely had time to react and fire her chakra arrow at the Uzumaki's attack, causing the beam to detonate before it could touch the Raviente. However, the resulting explosion was large enough to engulf the snake, its occupant, and at least 500 square meters of the ocean, which was instantly vaporized. Part of the attack ricocheted toward the blonde-haired man, but the Raiton giant remained unharmed. That's definitely not the kind of technique that should be used near a village, Sakura commented. I need to refine it into something smaller, Naruto replied, undoing the Aesir. However, I must say that I'm annoyed that you eliminated Satsuki. That was my job. I didn't kill her, he said, pointing to the girl's body floating face up in the hole left by his attack. I restrained myself. I didn't think it was right to kill her given what we discovered. That's why it's important that we eliminate her. If we leave her alive, she'll become more dangerous. That's why we must take her with us. If she fell into darkness, it's because loneliness pierced her heart. Sorry. You said she lost her family in that massacre. If you add to that the cursed seal, it's fair to say she's not to blame for her actions. But we'll discuss it in detail later, Naruto said, approaching Satsuki. The dark-haired woman was in shock from the technique she'd been hit with. Her barrier shattered seconds before the explosion subsided and she received a severe electrical discharge. Her mind couldn't comprehend how she was still alive, but she was incredibly grateful, as the last thing she wanted was to abandon the person she cared about most. Come with us, Satsuki, Sakura said, looking at the flustered girl. Now what? Are you going to offer me some sick act of mercy? The girl said mockingly. Don't speak. You don't deserve anything, but my partner says I should give you a chance, the pink-haired girl said, looking seriously at Naruto. And why should I accept it? What do I gain from it? That's not something I can answer right now. There you go again with your secrecy. Fine, I, on the other hand, will reveal a certain fact. In this world, there is a very special place. A dungeon where memories vanish as easily as words in the sand. Why would I want to know that? Very simple. Once you and your friend have lost your memories, it will be very easy for me to control you, the dark-haired woman said mockingly, putting the trio on alert. Teleport, she said, transporting them to the place she was talking about. In an unknown location. Naruto and his companions ended up in some medieval-style ruins, where the walls were ivory white and completely devoid of life. The fox was forced to shrink in size and, like the others present, grumbled in annoyance. Damn it. I had a backup plan. Sakura roared angrily. I'm sorry, I thought we could change his mind, Naruto said, sounding somewhat distressed. Don't blame yourself. Our parents have fallen for Loki's tricks countless times, and it seems it was our turn to fall for one. I'd prefer they didn't get used to it, Kurama remarked. At least I'm glad that brat didn't try to control me. It's comforting to see she's not worried about the Bijuu, but that doesn't make her any less dangerous. With just a couple of monsters, she could wreak havoc. We need to find a way out of this place. I don't have a good feeling about this. Make it quick. We can't let her get away with this. She did something to my head and I suddenly lost consciousness, Sakura said, much to the blonde boy's bewilderment. What? Did you fight someone? Yes. I finally found Satsuki. She's an Amazon or something. Uh-oh. I think they were serious about this place affecting memory, Kurama said, watching the young people's behavior. I think I was too hasty in taking that ship. Where do you think we can get it? It will be difficult to locate her, but I estimate that she must be traveling alone. She has never been someone who enjoys being in the company of other people. I think it's a good time for you to act, Tsukahime, if you can see us, Kurama said to no one in particular, worried about what would happen if they spent too much time in that place. His words were indeed heard, and a spatial vortex formed in the middle of the group. From it emerged a skeletal black hand that pulled Naruto into the hole, alerting Sakura. She tried to stop it when it returned for her, but she too was pulled in, unable to defend herself. The fox, aware of who she was, willingly headed toward the vortex and escaped the ruins. At the Blue Moon Temple. What on earth have you gotten yourself into this time, Suki? A pink-haired girl said to Satsuki as she finished adjusting some bandages. The usual, Taiya. I was looking for unusual orbs, said the dark-haired woman, showing a ringed orb of reddish color with a rocky appearance. Not just those who worry about those things, but don't you think it's irresponsible for you to continue with those things? I mean, you already. I'm not going to be one of those people who gets held up by such trivialities. I know I have an important responsibility, but I have to make sure I make the world a better place for her. And I hope you succeed. Especially so you can teach a certain person a lesson, the pink-haired girl said maliciously. Just then, a brunette girl with a peculiar panda-shaped hairstyle entered the room. She finally fell asleep. She's been very restless lately, said the brunette, sighing wearily. Thank you, Tenten. I don't know what I would do without your help, said Tsuki. Don't even mention it. You're a good friend and we do what we can. It's a shame that its reach is so limited, Satsuki thought, somewhat annoyed. He had discovered his limitations that day and he hadn't liked them at all. However, he was happy that his unexpected field test had yielded partial success. Now he just had to deal with the problem of how to get those creatures to the shinobi continent. By the way, Tsuki. Is everything alright with Priestess Dia? I heard she summoned you for a private meeting, Tenten asked. Yes. Nothing a sincere look couldn't fix. In the Tsukahime dimension. What's your damn problem? Sakura exclaimed, looking at Shinji. Those were some strange thanks, the boy replied sarcastically, dispelling his Susanoo. They, along with Naruto and Kurama, were outside a house on a hillside in a snowy mountain landscape. What happened? My head is all jumbled up, said the blonde man. They were trapped in the Hall of Oblivion, Tsukahime said. I asked Shinji to get them out of there as soon as I could locate them. I hope it wasn't too late. No. He had excellent luck, Kurama said. What exactly was that place? I suspect it was another one of that crazy woman's ridiculous and insane tests, Shinji said, pointing at Tsukahime, who growled, annoyed by his insolence. Or at least her counterpart. I think I went in there once too, but I don't remember much. In fact, I don't even know how I got out. The Biju are immune to the hall's effects. They helped you escape, the Retit explained. The hall houses a particularly powerful weapon, but it's protected by a seal that erases the memories of those who enter, forcing them to forget. Only a Jinchuriki could reach it. How convenient, the boy said, annoyed. That explains why I feel gaps in my head, Sakura said. How did we end up there? Your friend threw us there. The Uchiha really go out of their way to make me dislike them, Kurama said. We ran into her. How could I have let her get away? That place is really annoying, the fox grumbled, realizing he'd have to explain the situation. I don't know the exact details, but Naruto said something about them not being able to kill her because of something they discovered about her. What? How could you do that to me, Naruto? You know very well that I must avenge Naruto. I think I can safely say I don't remember what I said to convince you, the blonde boy excused himself. Can you tell us what happened? He asked, looking at the Retit. I'm sorry. I couldn't see you on your journey because I had important matters to attend to. However, after properly verifying your location, it's now clear to me where Satsuki is. She's in the same dimension Shinji came from. What? The surprised pair exclaimed. Oh. That's an extremely predictable plot twist, the boy commented sarcastically. Now I'm definitely not going back to that place. Did you know about Satsuki? Sakura asked. Of course not. I think I would perfectly remember a female version of Sasuke. Then Tsukahime laughed softly, drawing the others' attention. Excuse me. It's a joke I remembered. Come on. It's a fact that he's missing a screw. Stop for a moment. I need to know exactly what happened. Please tell us everything you know, Kurama, said Naruto. Okay. The fox explained the entire journey to that dimension, from his arrival in Arcadis to the intense confrontation with Satsuki and the Raviente. I think my friends will have something to keep them entertained, Shinji said mockingly. Don't worry about that girl, he told Sakura and Naruto. The shinobi continent is not defenseless. That doesn't reassure me. She's stronger than she should be, the pink-haired woman commented. A couple of years with those crazy Amazons can change someone, said the dark-haired man. Do you know anything about that group? I need to know as much as possible before I face them. I know more than I'd like, she replied, looking somewhat embarrassed. That group and I have a rather funny history. Then say it, said Kurama. Are any of you fans of Uchiha? Of course not, said Naruto. I still don't understand how Nanashi put up with that garbage, Sakura said, insulted by the question. Then they're not suited to listen to her. They don't appreciate fine literature, Shinji said in a serious tone. But perhaps I'm talking too much. Why don't we go to the village and order something? They must be tired. With that, the entire group was transported to a village located in the same landscape. There, Shinji led the group to a small restaurant that primarily served grilled meat. What is this place? It's Paki Village. It's one of the settlements that have started to appear in this world. I don't remember seeing any towns while we were here, said Naruto, curious to see so many people in the place. Time doesn't flow at the same pace everywhere. Their journey took them longer than they thought. That makes sense. May I ask what you've been doing all this time? It seems strange that we haven't seen you in these 2 years, Sakura said skeptically. I've been training. I didn't like that Naruto was at a higher level than me. I thought you didn't like this dimension, said Uzumaki. And she still hasn't, but my attempts to leave were unsuccessful. Something tells me Tsukahime sent me with you on purpose, and it wasn't an accident like I thought it was. My father used to say that destiny was written, especially for the gods, Sakura said. I find that ridiculous. As far as I remember, this boy's father has saved the earth from being destroyed hundreds of times. How much do you know about my father? Naruto asked. Not really. He was always with the Avengers and wasn't one of those who visited the Jean Grey school. An Avenger? Why would Odinson dedicate himself to such a task? Sakura said. No. The Avengers are a superhero organization dedicated to fighting villains and all kinds of dangers that threaten Earth. The name has nothing to do with their work. All the land. Yes. To give you an idea, the world where I think Naruto's father is from and yours has at least 20 organizations with the same level of danger as Akatsuki or more. It sounds terrible. What evil incites the formation of a group that even has a god? Sakura said, impressed. Oh, that's a really awkward question, said the purple-haired boy, a little nervously. It was Loki. Sakura did not react well to the answer. Oh come on. You can't blame me for that. I haven't even had the chance to run into him to confirm the whole thing. What are you talking about? I've managed to make my Kamui much stronger. Now I can reach other dimensions. Does that mean you can take me to Asgard now? Yes and no. What do you mean? Do you have any idea how many dimensions there are? The purple-haired boy asked, somewhat agitated. I got lost on my first try, he added, sounding dejected. It's clear to me that there must be many, but how difficult can it be to reach yours? Said Naruto. It's not like I can input coordinates into the jutsu, and even if I could, I don't know where my home is. I was only able to find them because Tsukahime helped me. Besides, my technique has limits. I can't create more than 2 portals per day. That's why I got stuck in some rather strange places with some pretty dangerous residents. I don't think anyone likes receiving visitors from other dimensions, especially if it's you. I assume you ended up in a lot of trouble, Sakura said. Indeed. I ran into some truly formidable enemies. I encountered a Goliath that seemed capable of rotting anything it touched. I nearly lost an arm. Then there was one who wielded a strange key that appeared to manipulate reality, and he had a katana-wielding lunatic as his companion. But my favorite was a monstrous tree that literally chased me across half a continent. Luckily, I managed to escape before it found me in any situation worth mentioning. It's not like I'm interested in listening to them anyway. What I'm interested in is you telling me everything you know about the Amazons. They're your typical group of women with enough estrogen and strength to bring anyone they want to their knees. Luckily, they're not as extreme as the ones I know. By the way, think twice before buying anything online. That company's name isn't just a coincidence, Shinji warned Naruto. Kurama mentioned that Satsuki used magic. How does it work, and how can I fight her? Unlike chakra, magic focuses on the manipulation of spiritual energy. The mind is trained to channel and manipulate the mana present in the air and use it as a weapon. From what I recall, their magic is quite simple, so a mithril protection should mitigate a good amount of what they throw at you, the boy said, summoning a moon-shaped pendant. I also believe that fire should be fraught with fire, so I've compiled a few spells, he said, a white book appearing. Unfortunately, I've been fully dedicated to ninjutsu, so I haven't had time to practice and help you. Why do you have all this? It's insurance I keep in case the Amazons find out I'm out there. I'll just have to trust that this works, said the skeptical girl. Will you come back for Satsuki? Naruto asked. Of course. Her danger has increased, and I have to deal with her. Although first I have to prepare myself, she said, taking the pendant and the book. It's your decision. I'll return to Konoha first. I've been away for a long time and I want to see my family. I want to know if my siblings are the same as before and show my mother how strong I've become. Just try not to get affectionate with her, Shinji said with some displeasure. What do you mean? I already said it. I ran into some strange situations that are better left unsaid. Apparently, there are many like you who dare to cross the line, the boy said, trembling. The only good thing I got out of my travels was that I expanded my Ichiha repertoire, the dark-haired man said proudly. A multiversal collection of Ichiha. Can you sink any lower? Sakura said. I wouldn't call it a collection. There are pieces I'd rather destroy than be seen with. That one of yours is enough to give me nightmares. Did you go through my things? Oh shit, said the purple-haired boy before starting to escape the pink-haired girl's fury. The next day, then a severe beating. And why are you here? Said the blonde man as he prepared to stamp to go home. It'll only be for a moment. I want to visit Ichiraku Ramen and have a dozen or 2 bowls. I miss that flavor. As you wish. On this occasion, the portal took the pair of boys and the Bijuu transported them to a volcanic wasteland where there was no sign of life in the surroundings. Now take us to Konoha, Naruto said, worried by the scene. He didn't recall ever reading about a place like this on the continent. Okay, just give me a moment to recalibrate my technique for this dimension, Shinji said, adjusting his chakra to the environment. He then looked around and noticed something that seemed quite worrying. You know what? I don't think we need to go anywhere. Of course we must. This must be the land of Earth or some island off the mainland. I disagree, the boy said, pointing to a huge boulder half submerged in the lava. Then he raised it with a wave of his hands and revealed something that disturbed the blonde boy. It was a piece of Hashirama Senju's face. I think this is a piece of Mount Hokage. Is this Konoha? Naruto said in shock. Chapter 25. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, Shinji told Naruto, who was somewhat hyperventilating from the news he just received. It was an annoying but necessary task for the dark-haired boy who was worried about the storm clouds gathering above them as a result of the blonde's agitation. The volcanic wasteland was calm, but a thunderstorm would definitely turn it into chaos. You should calm down. How do you expect me to do it? I find my home destroyed and there's no sign of life for miles around. Uzumaki exclaimed. What on earth happened here? I always wondered why there aren't any volcanoes near Konoha when there are hot springs everywhere, but I don't think that's the case here. I assume someone must have attacked this place. Who would have the power to do something like that? Kurama said, stunned by the scene. I suppose it's Iwa. Aren't they the ones who have Son Goku? They also have many Yoten users. I don't think they'd go along with this, Naruto said. We need information. Let's go to Suna. Maybe we'll find something there. Okay, said Shinji, wrapping himself and the others in Kamui. When they emerged from the space-time vortex, they had to summon their weapons immediately and plant them in the ground to avoid being swept away by the intense winds that greeted them. Kurama had to be held down by Naruto. Before them was a titanic tornado that carried rocks as large as houses and immeasurable amounts of sand. What the hell? Shinji exclaimed as he felt the force of the cyclone. I thought you'd been training with your ninjutsu, Kurama exclaimed. That's what I did. We should be outside Suna. Get us out of here. Demanded the blonde man before being taken a few kilometers away from the cyclone. Once they were a safe distance away, the group was able to closely observe the phenomenon, which spanned at least 2 kilometers. Even where they stood, they could feel the furious winds. There's no doubt about it. This is, or rather was, Suna, said the purple-haired man, carefully examining the geographical configuration. Something's wrong. This can't be my world, Naruto said, worried. You set the coordinates correctly. This is your world, the fox explained. Someone must have attacked it, Shinji said, observing the tornado with his Sharingan. There are no traces of chakra, but this weather phenomenon is anything but natural. There's no way it could have been generated without disrupting the entire region's climate. It's too much of a coincidence that these disasters are found in ninja villages, so I rule out that some monster did it. The Gen more intend to generate massive sandstorms, but as you say, this shouldn't be the case. We would have already spotted the cause. Sukuna said I shouldn't worry about further attacks, but this. We need to go to another village. Let's go to Kumo. I can handle a lightning storm, but I'll pass. Let's do a thorough survey of the entire area so we can get a better idea of what happened here. Okay. But don't transport us anymore with your technique. We were just inches away from falling into that tornado, and we don't know if we might end up in the middle of enemy territory, Kurama warned. Besides, I hate falling into that dimension, he thought. That sounds like a good idea, Shinji replied. What do you think? Let's do it, declared the blonde man, who then took flight thanks to his diva path. I didn't expect you to figure out the trick to that power. Nice way to use the Earth's electromagnetic fields. The what? Naruto asked, confused. I just tried to fly the same way I levitate metals. I think you should read a science book. It's not that I doubt your intelligence, but when you're manipulating a fundamental force, it's best to know what you're playing with, Shinji said, activating his Rinnegan in his left eye and then beginning to float, bringing Kurama with him. We don't have time to discuss these things. Let's go, said Naruto, taking off at top speed. I hope you know where you're going, Shinji said to himself as he followed her. The pair's journey took them through the land of rivers, where they found almost the entire area flooded by the sudden rise of the waterways. Approaching AIM was impossible due to the torrential acid rain enveloping the area, and Kusa was nearly untraceable because of the jungle that now enveloped his country. Another look at the land of fire revealed that it was covered in hundreds of wildfires consuming the entire province. The air was unbreathable due to the amount of smoke and ash covering the sky, so if there were any survivors, it was impossible to find them in those parts. Giri, or Atlantis as Shinji jokingly called it, was submerged in the ocean, which was another cause of the problem, unless its inhabitants had developed gills. The same applied to Yuzu, which was completely engulfed in a massive vortex of water. Kumo was a deafening landscape, as lightning constantly struck from the sky, pulverizing everything in its path. I give up. This makes 2012 look ridiculous, Shinji said, already tired. The pair stopped near what had been Odo, a country that had also been devoured by a fire or something similar, as the trees looked withered and almost burned. We're not finished, said Naruto, who no longer knew how to contain his fury. We've been wandering around for days. We won't find anything here. That doesn't matter. We have to get someone. Get that idea out of your head. An extinction-type event happened here, and by definition, nothing should remain. I don't want to agree with him, but I truly haven't detected any life anywhere, Kurama said. Let's check Iwa. We must find something. SSSSSSSS I heard the group, then I noticed a small white snake watching them. Maybe it's a little rusty, Kurama commented. I don't understand how I didn't smell that snake. It's not a normal snake, Shinji said. Follow me, said the snake, then slithered away through the earth. Without hesitation, Naruto began to walk and follow the reptile. Hey. Where are you going? Shinji said, grabbing the blonde boy's arm. Don't you think it's a bad idea to follow that unusually white talking snake? It's the first living thing we've seen in days. We don't have many options. Do we have any? I'm just passing through. Oh yeah? And how do you plan to return to Tsukuyomi's dimension with Yuzu flooded? You have that thing called Kagura's Eye. I bet you can locate her as that woman and then I can open a portal to her. In that case, it's obvious you need my help to get back and if you want it, you'll have to help me find my family and friends. Do you understand? Uzumaki said seriously, breaking free and accompanying the snake. But that kind of attitude, it's hard to refuse, grumbled the purple-haired man. You have to understand how hard it must be to find your world destroyed. I'm worried about what might have happened to my brothers too, Kurama said to Shinji before following the blonde boy. This has to be the most painful bowl of ramen in history, Shinji grumbled again before continuing with the pair. The young men were led through the remains of what was once a lush forest and arrived at the gates of a bunker hidden by rocks and fallen logs. My common sense is flickering and telling me I shouldn't enter Orochimaru's lair, the purple-haired man said nervously. Are you telling me you can't beat him with your current power? Naruto said skeptically. Of course I can, but mad scientist laboratories bring back bad memories. The snake then disappeared among the rocks, leaving those present bewildered. What now? Said Naruto moments before a slab of rock broke loose at their feet, causing them all to fall into a pit. Their fall wasn't hard as they recovered before hitting the ground. However, they became alert when they saw they were surrounded by about 10 masked people who were pointing spears at them. And that's how we ended up at the hands of post-apocalyptic cannibals, Shinji said sarcastically, watching the scene. We come in peace. We don't want to hurt anyone, Naruto explained. We know. Otherwise, we'd all be dead, said a woman whose outfit was more elaborate than the others, implying she was the leader. She reinforced this idea by gesturing for them to lower their weapons. Please excuse the abruptness of the welcome, but it's very rare to find survivors, she said, removing her mask to reveal a blonde with blue eyes. Her face was pale and scarred, but this didn't prevent the Uzumaki from recognizing her. Kazumi. Sorry. Are you perhaps that girl who was Tsunade's daughter? We met during the Chunin exams. No way. Are you Naruto? She said, amazed to see the boy. The woman led the young people and the Bijuu through the lair, which had been converted into a hostel housing dozens of people. She then took them to her room and asked them to sit at a small desk. I'm sorry I can't offer you anything, but we're a bit tight on supplies, Kazumi said, taking a seat. No problem. What matters to me is something else, Naruto said, becoming serious. What happened here? What happened to Konoha and everything else? I'm glad you're getting to the point. All this destruction is due to the attack of the Five Kings, she said with a sour expression. Who is it? Well, that's what they called themselves, though they could more accurately be described as gods. After all, there's no other way to describe someone with so much power. The Five Kings are a group of beings who appeared 10 years ago and began sowing chaos wherever they went. At first, they only did small things like setting fire to small villages or flooding fields, but then they upped the ante and did more serious things like raising Kumo and devastating my village. We still don't know how they possess so much power, but they have the greatest elemental control imaginable. A snap of their fingers is enough to command the heavens and make the earth obey their every command. The way Sakura caused Kiri to be swallowed by the sea was simply terrifying. Sakura? What does she have to do with this? I was hoping you knew something about it. She joined them and cast aside her humanity, taking the name Shiva. I understand your friends tried to stop her, but like everyone else, they succumbed to those who claimed to be her brothers. Are you telling me that everyone from Konoha is dead? I'm afraid so. We are the last survivors of the shinobi continent, the blonde said, leaving Naruto stunned. Excuse me. Exactly how long has it been since the Suna Chunin exams? Shinji asked. Why are you asking? Mere curiosity. It's been 14 years. Thank you. How have you survived all this time? We've traveled across the continent and it's a complete disaster, asked the fox. My father granted me the power of the white serpent, which allowed me to survive Hashmal's poisonous attack. Others from Odo possess similar resilience, and we managed to hide here. However, the real reason we're still alive is that those individuals abandoned Earth a couple of years ago. The land? It's crazy, but our intelligence says they were talking about going to another planet or something like that. I see. But in that case, they wouldn't be able to go outside. Nobody wants to do it. The terrain is too hostile, and we couldn't survive the air there. We don't want to admit it, but it's only a matter of time before this shelter falls. I'm sorry to hear it. Now, if you don't mind answering me. Where were you, Naruto? The girl said, looking at Naruto. I really don't know what you could have changed with your presence, but those exams made it clear to me that you're very strong. You'd have a chance against them. Us? This isn't something that concerns you, Shinji interrupted, standing up. We appreciate the information, but it's time for us to leave, he said before disappearing from the scene with his companions. Wait. Kazumi said desperately, but it was too late, the group had already disappeared. What did you do? We need to help them. Naruto exclaimed once he found himself back in the destroyed Konoha. It's too late for them in this world. We should leave now, Shinji said seriously. Perhaps Asgard would be a good place for you to settle down, he said casually. I refuse. I can't leave this like this. I must find my family. They're dead. You have to accept it. I refuse to do it. Naruto said, an electric aura enveloping him, showing how upset he was. If this happened while they were in Tsukuyomi's dimension, it's my fault and I must find a way to fix it. Technically, Tsukuyomi would be the one to blame. She's the one who didn't warn you about the differences in the time flow between the two worlds. Technically, you would be the one to blame. You were the one who brought him to that world in the first place, Kurama remarked. Big mouth. Shinji exclaimed. I'll try to locate Tsukuyomi. She'll help us somehow. Maybe if we modify one of those seals, Naruto said. It won't help. Those things can take you between dimensions, but they're not proper time machines, the dark-haired man explained. Tsukuyomi already told me about the runes that make them up, and I estimate it would take years to insert the necessary ones for it to fulfill the purpose you want. So what do we do? First of all, you need to stop this ridiculous charade, Shinji, said a small blue fire cat that appeared on the purple-haired man's Akatsuki coat. You know very well what to do. Madatabi exclaimed Naruto and Kurama in surprise. What are you doing with him? How could you be seen with that fellow? The fox demanded. It wasn't intentional. One thing led to another, said the cat, sounding embarrassed. You tried to release another Biju. What happened to Carrie? Naruto said, fearing for the girl's fate. Don't worry, she's fine, Shinji said, laughing nervously. There's no way I'm interested in that ironing board, he muttered under his breath. Let's just say I got along well for a while with one of this cat's other owners. I father's beard. Don't tell me what I'm thinking is happening. Kurama said in shock. I'm afraid so, Madatabi said, grimacing. And believe me, it was something truly bizarre. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Naruto said, confused. Don't play dumb, Shinji said. You're going to tell me you don't know what I'm talking about after you and Sakura spent 2 years alone together? No idea. Really? Is he a monk or something? Said the purple-haired man, looking at the fox. He's still very green in that aspect, Kurama said, embarrassed. Strange. Especially considering what I've seen from their counterparts. Most of them are downright perverts. You're not left out of the package, said the cat. You can't deny who you are. Can we go back to what's irrelevant? I have a world to save, demanded Uzumaki, becoming serious again. I'm sorry. Like I said, this boy has a way of helping you. He's just being the jerk he usually is, the cat remarked. You have access to one of those time machines. Better. I'm the time machine, the boy said proudly. Despite being a Kekkei Genkai, Jutsu tend to develop unique abilities depending on each user. My Rinnegan gained the ability to travel through time. Are you serious? I've heard of many humans failing to develop techniques to achieve that feat, said the fox. Well, I can't take any credit since the technique came with the package. I didn't develop it. Besides, I've only tested it a couple of times and I can't get it to work for more than a couple of hours under normal conditions, but with an extra hand, I could get you to the date you need. Izumi said it had been 14 years since the exams, so that's how long we've been gone since we left for Tsukuyomi's dimension. We could go back to the day after we left. It would be risky. I don't know what the implications would be of us being so close to our past counterparts. It's better to fall a little further ahead. We can't let this fall into complete disaster either. If Sakura is involved, I must find a way to help her before she does something to harm herself. It would be a journey of no less than 10 years, but no more than 12. This will be difficult. What do you need? It might sound a bit like plagiarism, but I need a lightning bolt. A really big concentrated one. It has to have the power of 100 lightning bolts at the same time. I don't think that can happen naturally in our atmosphere. Actually, I have something similar, Naruto said with a somewhat evil smile. On the outskirts of what was Kumo. Shinji waited on the mountaintop as he watched Naruto prepare an electric spear with his gigantic Isur. Ruler of lightning. Suddenly I regret being born, said the boy, watching the Uzumaki's monstrous technique. Ready or not, here I go, said Naruto as he threw the Thunder Ruler's explosive spear. Please let this work, the purple-haired man begged as he enveloped himself in his Susanoo. Susanoo no Yoroi. Rage in form, he said, creating a black demonic armor adorned with cloud and lightning bolt figures. But the two zigzag swords he carried, Shinji blocked Naruto's attack, which nevertheless detonated, generating a great bang and flash. Naruto and Kurama quickly approached the impact site where they found Shinji and his armor glowing with all the electricity it contained. Very well. It's time to go to step 2, the boy said in a very rapid and jerky dialogue. Then, using the lightning swords, he made a cross-shaped cut in the air. Breach, beat, beat. To finish, he created a vortex with his Kamui in the middle of the energy cross. All aboard. Is that thing safe? Kurama asked. It's not first class, but we'll reach our goal, Shinji said, pointing at the portal that roared malevolently. Have you tried it? Naruto asked nervously. I can't keep this open forever. Either you use this or you wait for a much longer solution. I suggest we wait for something more certain, Kurama said. I'm sorry. I need to get home as soon as possible. I want to find a way to avoid all this, Naruto said, running to the portal and entering it, causing it to spark violently. DRRRR. Wait for me, said the fox, following him and causing the same effect. Shinji said nothing and just stepped into the lightning vortex. 10 hectic and violent minutes later. Naruto leaned against a building wall, trying to understand what happened to a person caught in a Rasengan. His head was spinning, and he could barely stand. He would definitely never go through a portal like that again. Wow. I can't believe it, Shinji said, checking that all his body parts were reattached. It really worked. He added, still breathless from the trip. Idiot. I really felt like I was going to die in there, the blonde man complained angrily. But we're alive, and that's what matters. Plus, we have a bonus. We traveled through time and kept our clothes, said the purple-haired man, showing off his almost burnt-out cape. At least most of them, he added, taking it off and revealing a plain black shirt. It seems I'm working. I can sense many chakra signatures, and the vast majority are lightning release. We're in Kumo. See. My trips have a 100% success rate. Wait a minute. Where's Kurama? Said Naruto, noticing the fox's absence. Shinji opened his eyes in alarm and then turned to see the portal close. Let's reduce the percentage to 66.6%, said the boy with a smile that tried to hide his nervousness. Where has he gone? Said the stressed blonde man. The truth is, I haven't the slightest idea. This is the first time I've used the Amanakahashi, floating bridge of the heavens, on such a scale. It might have ended up a little different from ours, or I might be fighting a T-Rex. You have to find it. How do you want me to do it? It will take me a couple of days to use the technique again. It consumes a lot of my chakra, and my Rinnegan will be inactive for quite a while. You have 5 Biju inside you. How can you tell me you don't have the chakra to do it? Correction. I have 5 of their consciousnesses. My normal chakra barely reaches Shukaku's at full strength. I need many factors to reach my full power. You'd better find Kurama. I'll see what I can do, but I need someone to locate him. I'll do that, but for now just take me to Konoha, said Naruto, already annoyed. I haven't had a decent meal in days. Let me rest a little. Then I'll go on my own, said the blonde man, whose stomach would later betray him. Good. I think I need to eat something too. It's a good thing I made sure to save up some money, said the purple-haired man, making a wallet appear. The young men left the alley and quickly headed towards the village shops, though their journey was made difficult by the hundreds of stares they received. Many were of bewilderment and surprise, others of desire and envy, for although the shinobi of Kumo tended to be muscular, Naruto's appearance was very attractive to the women of the village. Don't you feel a lot of dirty looks? Said Uzumaki as they ate a bowl of ramen. I usually keep my detection skills deactivated. You tend to get paranoid if you use them too much, the purple-haired boy replied dismissively. It's stupid. If you have them, you should use them. I spent almost 3 years trapped inside a dungeon full of undead and killer bugs. If someone wants to kill you, I don't care to know, especially while I'm eating. What are you two idiots doing here? Don't you know they want your heads here? Said a mysterious girl wearing a cloak. Erg, the purple-haired boy exclaimed in annoyance. Perry? The boy said, recognizing the girl's chakra. I'm surprised you still remember me, she said, revealing her face. There are things you can't forget. What are you saying? It's not important. They need to leave the village right now. It's only a matter of time before A arrives here. And should that worry me because? Don't you know anything? He wants you 6 feet under. He's furious that you left him in a wheelchair for a year. He spent the last 3 years training to beat the crap out of you. That means 4 years have passed since the Chunin exams, said the blonde man, doing the calculations. More or less, but that doesn't matter. They have to get out of here. I haven't done anything, said Shinji. You and Sakura are considered allies of Naruto. You have no idea how many times they've tried to attack her and your family, the girl said. I shouldn't be talking to you, but I think what you're doing is stupid. Isn't the information you're giving us treasonous? He's the Raikage. Not really. The current Raikage is my brother Killer B, so he'll understand my actions. Thanks, but I'm not running away from that guy. If he wants a fight, he'll get one, the boy said, leaving the bar. Shouldn't you stop him? If he gets involved in a fight, he'll start a war between Konoha and Kumo, the Raikage said to Shinji. So what's wrong with that? Wars are beneficial for human development, Shinji said, calmly slurping some noodles. Besides, it would only be a war if both sides truly had a chance of winning. On the street. Naruto walked out into the street with his head held high. He wasn't one to hold grudges, but that man had really offended him by speaking about his family in such a condescending way. And if he was still determined to bother him and his friends, he'd have to face the consequences. The crowd watched the blond man intently and wondered why he stood in the middle of the street, but when a huge object fell on the spot, making the ground shake, they knew they had to take cover. So you stopped hiding, brat, A said, appearing in front of the boy. His muscles were much more defined, and on both biceps, he had the kanji for thunder tattooed just below some shuriken. His clothing was ordinary. Black pants and a couple of thick gold bracelets. I was just doing something important. Nothing of your interest, replied the boy, who, despite being slightly shorter than the Raikage, was just as imposing. I bet it was all that plot you and the other villages hatched. I already told him. He's not interested. Good. Don't speak. You'll need all your breath to beg for mercy, said A, activating his blue lightning release. Fire release. Don't count on it, the boy said, activating a similar coating. Last time you caught me off guard, but now you'll understand that you don't mess with the Raikage, the man said, throwing a punch that the blond man intercepted with one of his own. The impact shattered all the surrounding windows and sent several people tumbling. They fought back, then clashed again in an aerial battle that once more shook the streets of Kumo. Carrie left the building and began to watch the fight. The two shinobi were striking each other with punches and kicks that made the air explode like thunder, and they moved with such speed that they seemed like lightning. The spectators had little view of what was happening. The combatants appeared only as flashes in the air, destroying everything in their path. Very little was clearly distinguishable, such as the moment when the Raikage grabbed Naruto and performed a super bomb on a building. The blond man was grateful the place was empty, but annoyed by his rival's irresponsibility. Therefore, his next move was to unleash a Konoha whirlwind and send the dark-haired man flying away from the village. A was slammed into one of the mountains surrounding the village, but he still got back up. He had trained to withstand the kind of powerful impacts the Raikage expected from the boy. Once he reached the new battle site, the Raikage leaped and performed a guillotine attack on the blond boy, which was dodged by the boy's quick reflexes. The Uzumaki had to admit that his opponent had done his homework and had become very strong, which he found quite agreeable, since he hated the idea of not being able to find strong people. Time to raise the stakes, A said, tensing his body. Kuro Raiden no Yoroi, black lightning armor. Then the chakra surrounding the subject changed to a dark color and began to emit a heavy sensation. The Raikage vanished and swiftly unleashed an elbow strike into Naruto's chest. Naruto immediately felt the full force of the technique. It was far superior to a normal thunderbolt and released so much energy at once that, were it not for his elemental resistance, he knew he would have died from the blow. He didn't waste a moment and used Iron Claw on the Uzumaki's face. This would make him vulnerable to a more lethal attack. The blonde knew he was in a weak position and that his opponent had excellent defense, so he didn't hesitate to gather his haki in his right hand and then unleash a karate chop on A's torso, forcing him to release his grip. Naruto then coated his arms completely in Busoshoku haki, giving them a metallic appearance with a blue hue. With this, he was able to withstand and even the Raikage's attacks, who was annoyed to see that the boy had a way to counter his ace technique. Both opponents separated again and took a step back before colliding with punches that caused the floor to crack from the pressure exerted. Not bad, old man. I see the title isn't too much for you, said Naruto, looking straight at the Raikage. Don't make fun of me, brat, A said. I'm not doing that, but I fear this fight is pointless. I'm fighting only with Taijutsu out of respect, but you can't beat me with that technique. This is one of the techniques passed down from my father. There's no way you can defeat him. It doesn't matter how strong your lightning release is. That's the funny thing. It turns out that's not the only element I'm good at, said the blonde, dispelling his haki and lightning coating. I'm also good with wind release, and thanks to it I can create this, he said, appearing as an air bubble with a few sparks inside. Don't underestimate me, said the Raikage, launching an elbow at full speed. Odoten. Break, sound element. Rupture, said Naruto to intercept his opponent with a bubble. A loud screech was heard throughout Kumo, causing everyone in the village to cover their ears. Then they saw A being thrown to the other end of the town like a sack of potatoes. The dark-haired man had many of his bones fractured and was barely conscious due to the concussion he had suffered. Moments ago, his armor had been completely destroyed as if it were a crystal goblet. Shortly after, he was struck by a sound wave that caused his eardrums to rupture. Naruto then approached the wreckage and looked him in the face. "I know you can't hear me, but I'm sure you can read my lips. Don't you ever bother my family and friends again. Do you understand?" He didn't respond and simply fell unconscious. That didn't provide any clear answer, but Uzumaki hoped the message had been received. "When is this idiot going to learn? Does he want to lose all his teeth?" said a man with dark glasses, falling into the place where A and Naruto were. "Hello. Killer B, or should I say Arakage?" said the blonde, looking at the hat of the present shinobi. "The great Killer B is fine, Mr. Dragon Slayer," the dark-haired man sang. "I'm sorry about your brother. His strength is like steel, but his head is as hollow as a hole. Don't worry, I hope that'll stop him from doing crazy and idiotic things." "Good. If you've had your fun, we can go now," said Shinji, appearing in the area and finishing a can of instant coffee. "So here's Mr. Temix. How's Mr. 8 demo?" said Killer B, looking at the purple-haired man. "Mr. Remix. I never thought a couple of lines would make me hate rap," said the boy, shocked by the nickname he received. "I'm sorry B. I have to go," said Naruto, approaching the purple-haired boy. "Just a moment," Raikage said, pulling a couple of discs from his suit. "Take these to your mother. It's a small apology for last time's incident." "Inkarap," said the blonde boy, confused by the cover that showed Killer B in a yukata. "Yes, that's why I prefer dubstep," Shinji said, looking disapprovingly at the CD. "Okay. I'll give him your regards," said Naruto. And so Naruto and Shinji set off for Konoha in their quest to stop the future that awaited the shinobi continent without knowing the trouble they would get into. Chapter 26. "We lost some luggage, but here we are as promised," said Shinji, appearing in front of the gates of Konoha alongside Naruto. "Once I'm settled and have made sure everything is in order, I'll set about locating Kurama. I want you to bring him back as soon as possible." "Okay, boss," the purple-haired man said sarcastically, rolling his eyes. "I'm not kidding. Stay out of trouble," the blonde man said before entering the village. "Relax, I'll wait while And what do I do in the meantime? I get bored very easily and I have no idea what to do while you do your little hero act," said the boy as the Uzumaki walked away. That didn't sound good at all to Naruto and he was tempted to drag the boy along to keep an eye on him, but he preferred that his cousin not cross paths with his brothers again. They would surely harbor resentment toward him and he didn't want them getting into a pointless fight. Upon arriving, he saw the shinobi Izumo and Kaketsu guarding the village entrance with their eyes closed and snoring loudly. He chose to leave them be as he didn't want to draw attention to himself and have to explain where he'd been. Konoha retained its characteristic essence. People strolled about, shopping or simply enjoying the sights. Naruto immediately noticed Jiraiya's face on the Hokage Hill, which pleased him. He then made his way home by leaping across rooftops, avoiding any acquaintances. First, he had to see his family and then he would take care of his other colleagues. He was disappointed to find his home empty and no one there to greet him, but a quick scan of the area allowed him to locate his mother on the outskirts of the village. Probably in a training area. It took him no time to reach the aforementioned location, where he found a rather peculiar scene. Kushina was using her adamantine chains to counterattack an enormous hydra formed by dozens of water snakes that looked quite furious. The boy would have acted immediately, but then he saw that the marine construct was being manipulated by an acquaintance of his. It was Sakura Haruno, who looked very different from the girl he remembered. She had let her hair grow to the end of her back and wore it completely loose. It didn't seem to bother her at all, as she was even wearing what looked like a beach outfit, consisting of an aquamarine skirt with a white floral design that covered her now well-defined legs and a matching top that covered her ample breasts and left the rest of her torso bare. She also wasn't wearing her characteristic glasses, revealing a now relaxed expression, and a blue diamond adorned her forehead. The pink-haired woman moved her arms with great elegance to command the water creature, which was directed towards Kushina. The Uzumaki then directed her chains to counterattack the jaws that were coming at her, but the pressure exerted by Sakura's attack was enough to scatter the spikes of the chains and force the Riti to step aside. Haruno then directed the other heads of the Hydra against the woman who quickly shielded herself with chains before receiving the powerful blow that made water splash everywhere. "Are you alright, Kushina-sensei?" Sakura asked. "Everything's fine," said Sakura with a sigh. "You did a good job today, Sakura-chan. Honestly, I don't know why you still want to train with me. You already know everything there is to know about water release and you've surpassed me in power. I haven't had the opportunity to do many missions lately, so I like to stay in shape and get stronger," the girl said proudly. "That sounds good to me. I'd be disappointed if I found my teammates hadn't gotten any stronger, Naruto said, entering the scene. It can't be. Sakura said, impressed upon seeing the young man. Naruto. Kushina exclaimed before running to hug her son. Where have you been? It's a very long story, said the blonde man. When did you arrive? I arrived on the continent a few hours ago. It took me a while to get here because I had to make a stop in Kumo before coming here. You've come all this way. You must be hungry. Let's go home so I can make you something. I'm fine, thanks. But we could still go over there to talk comfortably, the boy said. You've changed a lot, Naruto, Sakura said, appreciating the changes her teammate had undergone. It's clear you've been training hard. You too. And what do you think? Said the girl, turning around as if to indicate that she was referring to her appearance. Are you sure that outfit is suitable for a battle? It doesn't look very protective, the boy said, causing the women to comically stumble. Honey, she's referring to something else, Kushina said, a bead of sweat forming on her temple. It doesn't matter, Kushina-sensei. I have some shopping to do, and it's best if I leave now, said the pink-haired girl, then left the training field. What's wrong with him? Naruto asked, confused. Seriously, you have to tell me what you've been doing all this time. Kushina sighed. Minutes later, at the Uzumaki house. Very well. I'm all ears, Kushina said, sitting down across from her son in the living room, where she had set out some snacks despite what the blonde boy had said. I want to know what happened when you and those two friends of yours went to Yuzu. How do you know they followed me? Everyone knows they went to Yuzu. Whatever they did there, they released enough chakra to attract the attention of every sensor ninja on the continent. I admit that maybe I went too far when I fought against Kurama and Shinji. That explains why the place was almost unrecognizable. Did you go all the way there? Yes. The Hokage, who is Jiraiya by the way, asked a fire daimyo to take the necessary steps to annex the island to the country and allow the reconstruction of the village that existed there. I think it's great that Jiraiya took that initiative. I suppose it also helped that I persuaded him a little. I should have guessed. And what about the seal that was on the island? Has anyone examined it? If you're referring to the one inside the temple, I can tell you it's fine. After checking it countless times and being unable to activate it, I determined that the best course of action was to keep the room secured with some locks I created. That's a relief. That seal is a portal to the Tsukuhem dimension, the place I went to. Another dimension. That's where the monsters came from. Yes. They originate from that world. I suppose you defeated them all. We haven't had another attack since you left. I took care of a good number, but this part will sound a bit ridiculous to you. Honey, your father is a god. I'm in a position to understand anything. That dimension is basically a giant training ground. It was built by an ancient being to prepare its children. The place started malfunctioning and the creatures began escaping into our world. What? What kind of idiot does such a thing? What was he thinking? The furious Rikichi said. That's what I'm wondering too. Anyway, I spent 2 years fighting all sorts of monsters to drain all the power contained in the dimension so that no other creature could escape. I'm glad you sorted it out. People got really paranoid after seeing those things from Suna. Believe me when I tell you that was nothing, Naruto said, making a face. Flashback. 2 months had passed since Uzumaki's arrival in the Rikichi's dimension, and naturally he made many exploratory trips to get a clear idea of where she would be living while carrying out the task assigned by Tsukuhem. One of his journeys took him to the foot of an active volcano, which was not at all uninhabited as it was supposed to be. The hammer, reinforced by the Amaterasu orb, was the only thing that prevented the blonde man from ending up in the jaws of a particular Tigrex that had him pinned against a wall of solidified lava. The creature's bright orange color was dulled by a purple aura, indicating the presence of the apex virus in its system. The strength that the cholera virus gave Tigrex put him on par with Naruto, who managed to break free with a kick and then connect a thunderous hammer blow against the wyvern's face. The creature flinched at the blow, but then leaped back, the veins in its body bulging and its eyes turning a deep red. The Tigrex then unleashed a powerful roar, a testament to its fury. Naruto felt like his ears were going to burst from the painful noise his opponent was making, and he deeply regretted having such acute senses. But he couldn't get distracted for long, as the Tigrex was already charging at him. I nimbly manipulated my weapon to deliver an upward blow to the Tigrex's jaw, stopping it dead in its tracks, then took a small leap and landed a heavy hammer blow that shook the surrounding area. How about that? Naruto said to the beast, which, despite falling from the blow, still seemed capable of fighting. Indeed, the Tigrex gathered momentum and spun around, delivering a slash to the boy's chest. The wyvern's claws weren't strong enough to pierce his thick tough hide, but the haki provided by the cholera virus changed that. The blonde man stepped back as he summoned his sword de aura to envelop his opponent in a layer of ice. However, the high ambient temperature and the Tigrex's great strength easily shattered the icy spikes, and then the creature pounced on its prey. Naruto prepared to strike when, out of nowhere, a powerful and noisy blast of air violently pushed the Tigrex back. With his ears ringing, Naruto saw another Tigrex enter the scene. This one wasn't the same. Its fur wasn't orange but gray with black streaks. It was a brute Tigrex, also infected with the virus. The wyvern had been drawn by the commotion and now wanted to hunt Naruto down as well. Its other opponent was furious at its brother's interruption but soon accepted his presence and focused on the blonde boy, who then drew his twin swords. Both creatures lunged at Naruto, who unleashed his own version of the Tigrex's spinning attack. Then flashback. And that went on for quite a while, Naruto said. The worst part was when a fire Tigrex appeared, emitting a red powder that exploded on the slightest touch. It was absolute hell fighting it. Kushina exclaimed, her face showing total shock. Perhaps that was nothing compared to another event, the boy remarked, recalling a battle that had taken place about a year after his encounter with the Tigrex. Flashback. That volcano was anything but ordinary. It was a place that attracted countless monsters, far surpassing in strength those found in more conventional environments. One of them was the Mephistophelan, a long, white cadaverous-looking dragon similar in size to the Amaterasu. Naruto could attest to that fact as he stood before the dragon and could clearly appreciate its immense size. Both were inside the fiery mountain, preparing to begin a thunderous battle. The dragon began by lashing its whip-like tail at the Uzumaki, an action that shattered the layer of rock separating those present from a sea of lava at their feet. The demigod could withstand the intense heat of the place, but he wasn't keen on plunging into the fiery magma. Therefore, he used Diva Path to stay airborne and have a greater range of movement. The Mephistophelan then began to display its elemental power by making its chest glow with a white light, allowing it to exhale a powerful beam of ice that was unfazed by the high ambient temperature. High release. Great fire annihilation. Naruto said, intercepting the icy blast that created an intense wave of steam. Fire release. Phoenix arrows. He then said, invoking the power of Matatabi and firing 3 large blue fire projectiles at the dragon. However, the creature boasted of its resilience and withstood the attack as if it were nothing. Then the light on its chest changed to orange, allowing the Mephistophelan to exhale a barrage of fireballs that almost completely engulfed the Uzumaki's surroundings. Lightning release. Pursuing fangs. The boy said, waving his arm and unleashing a pair of electric projectiles that prevented the fireballs from hitting him. Lightning release. Lightning strike. He shouted, propelling himself forward to reach the dragon and delivering a powerful kick that knocked it down. The creature rose, letting out a furious roar, its chest glowing with a crimson light. Its wings lacked any membrane, but when an aura enveloped them, the Mephistophelan was able to take flight without further difficulty. Already airborne, a wide beam of dragon breath was launched at Naruto, who quickly evaded it. Using his lightning release technique, Shundo approached the dragon again and attacked with a lightning release-infused Reincarnation. That succession of rapid punches stunned and knocked down the Mephistophelan, but in its fall, it dragged Naruto with its tail into the volcanic cauldron under the rock floor, which inevitably broke from the combined weight of the fighters. Then flashback. In the end, we both emerged from the lava and continued fighting as if nothing had happened. Although my hair was burned and took a while to grow back, and since then I promised myself I would never cut it again, the boy said, not giving much importance to the fact that he survived such an event. Uzumaki, on the other hand, was completely stunned by the story. She understood that her son might choose unconventional training, but this was simply madness. It's simply absurd. Why would anyone expose their children to that? The woman said, her hair standing on end with anger. Actually, we ended up being Tsukuyomi's guinea pigs. Those who were supposed to use the place escaped. I need to talk to that person, the Redhead said, cracking her knuckles. And what about your companions? They were quite peculiar, if I recall correctly. There was even one who looked like Sakura. She didn't look like her. She was also Sakura. Although her full name is Sakura Daughter. Sorry. My father wasn't the only god who ended up away from his home. Boulder, Sakura's father, ended up in a Konoha different from ours, and well, you'll understand how that turned out. Ibuki Haruno hooked up with a god. Nobody believes that. No. It was something different and strange, I must say. The thing is, Sakura comes from a world where most people are of opposite genders and… Let's leave it at that. Okay. Kushina said, somewhat disturbed at the thought of herself as a man. Anyway. The Sakura I left with is also a demigoddess like me. Her father is my father's brother. So they're cousins. I don't like to see it that way. It's hard to imagine that Sakura is related to me. He is, a little. What about the idiot who hurt your brothers? Regarding Shinji, well, it's not something we have completely confirmed, but it seems that he is the son of my father's other brother. Another demigod. Another semi-something. My father and Sakura are Asgardian by birth, but Shinji's is more like an ice giant who was adopted by my grandfather Aten. I remember him being very short for the son of a giant. His aging is rather strange. Although perhaps he's deliberately staying this way, like Tsunade. He's not very sociable and doesn't give in-depth details about his life, so I don't know anything about what's going on in his head. At least it's reassuring to know you've been accompanied by your family throughout this time. Actually, Shinji disappeared on the first day. I only saw him again a few days ago. I spent most of my time in that dimension with Kurama and Sakura. But the girl. That is, they lived together during all that time. Not exactly together. She had her own house and I had mine. Anyway, we shared stories when we ate or trained. I see. So they don't have a very close relationship. Sakura tends to be very closed off most of the time, but I understand why. She's been through the loss of loved ones, senseless wars, and basically she's alone in the world. How terrible. But he's a good person once you get to know him, and that's why I have to help him find a girl he has some issues to resolve. Did that bring you back to Konoha? No. It's a very different matter, but I'd rather not talk about it, said Naruto, who had been warned by Shinji about the consequences of altering the future. They were going to look for ways to stop the disaster, but they had to be discreet when bringing up the subject, as that would only accelerate events. Good. As long as you're back, that's enough for me. I'm glad to be back too. I felt I should stay with my brothers now that they've changed, but I had a responsibility. It was a shame you weren't here, but you'll be glad to hear that your brothers have improved their attitude since you left. They're not so arrogant anymore and have managed to reach the rank of Jounin with honors. Wow, they've already moved up in rank. In fact, most of your generation have already achieved it, including your classmates. You should talk to Jiraiya about having him give you a special exam or something. Having a high ninja rank isn't something I plan to achieve, nor do I care about it. You know that very well. Don't blame me for asking. And where are Menma and Natsumi? They should arrive within a week. They're on a mission in Earthland. That's a relief. That way they won't run into Shinji. That guy came with you. I didn't have many options. I don't possess any space-time techniques, and even flying takes me a long time to get from one place to another. I might have a solution for you. No way am I learning the Flying Thunder God technique, said the blonde man with his arms crossed. I'm letting you know that I helped Minato perfect it. It's not actually his own technique, but rather the second Hokage Tobirama's, the Redeed said, standing up. Come with me. Kushina led Naruto to the basement of the house, a place that appeared to be her workshop, as there were scrolls, ink bottles, and brushes everywhere. Then she went to a table covered by a white cloth, which, when removed, revealed a circular shield with a rustic antique appearance. Its grayish-blue sheen indicated that it was made entirely of chakra metal. The center of the shield had a mirror-like surface, but its most striking feature was the series of engraved rings across its surface. Wow, this is… Yes. I may not have been able to activate it, but I sensed that the seal in Yuzu was of the space-time type. I engraved most of it on the surface of the shield. But why did you do it? It was a strange idea that crossed my mind. I thought it would be useful to have it on hand. It's more than perfect, said Naruto, carefully examining the symbols on the protective piece. I couldn't put all the stamps on because of lack of space. I really don't know if it will work. Tsukahime taught me the principles that govern this seal. I may not be able to move between dimensions, but this will be enough for me to go anywhere in the Shinobi continent without problems. Perhaps this way you can take a trip to Nami. Its inhabitants sent a supply of metal chakra to Konoha in gratitude for the liberation of their village, and it was determined that a portion belonged to your team. I'll thank them later. And what can you tell me about them? It seems you and Haruno are getting along well now. We've been training in Suiton. She has a mastery of the element that could even surpass Tobirama's. Really? Said Naruto, hiding his concern. She has also mastered the use of the Byakugo seal and is very good with medical ninjutsu. Excellent. I've also taught you how to cook your favorite dishes, said the Redeed with an innocent laugh. Why's that? It's a girl's secret. Hey? After that confusing comment, Kushina explained the situation with the Uchiha clan and Sasuke. The blonde boy was surprised to learn that his sister was Sasuke's girlfriend. He never imagined such an outcome. Her mother told her that this relationship was more than ideal, since with the reconstruction in Yuzu, the daimyo had requested the restoration of the Uzumaki clan. Under normal circumstances, this would have meant Natsumi would be forced into an arranged marriage with some nobleman, but given that Sasuke is from an important clan, that fact was omitted. For Menma, the situation was different. He had to assume leadership of the clan, while also marrying several girls to promote its growth. However, the boy was obsessed with becoming stronger and paid no attention to the matter. The daimyo was quite flexible, but he truly wanted the clan that was unjustly massacred in the war to rise again, and that led to a single possible solution. Absolutely not, the boy said emphatically. Believe me, I don't like the idea either, but think it over. If you were to take over the Uzumaki clan, you would also assume command of the village and could do whatever you wanted with it. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a ninja village. I'd say no anyway. I'm not someone who's given orders. If we take into account who your father is, perhaps it's the complete opposite. Please, let's leave it at that. As you wish. I think I should go and tidy your room. You're staying, right? Yes, but I can take care of that. Absolutely not. You must go to the village and meet up with your other companions. It's clear to me that your trip lacked a lot of socialization. But. No buts. With all your ancestry, it's a given that your life expectancy will be very high, and although mine is also somewhat high, I'm not going to wait half a century to meet grandchildren. After this, Naruto found himself outside his house, unable to offer any argument in his favor. He might possess tremendous strength, but it completely failed him when it came to speaking to his mother. Then the boy set off for the village's commercial area to find his former classmates, unaware that he was being watched by a certain pink-haired girl. Damn it. He barely even asks about me, Sakura muttered to herself, annoyed at the confirmation of one of her worst fears. She had been replaced by that girl in armor. At least all those tricks Kushina-sensei taught me to hide my presence worked, she thought with a sigh. But I won't give up before my fight even begins. I'll find a way to make Naruto notice me, she said, stealthily following the blonde boy. I take back what I said. This will be better than any novel or drama, Shinji said, watching the scene from a lamppost, with popcorn and soda. Don't waste any time and follow them. I don't want to miss a single detail, Matatabi urged, also eager to find out more. This kind of confinement is affecting us a lot, Kurama commented sadly inside the purple-haired man's mind, seeing how his other brothers were just as attentive to the love entanglement Thorson was about to get into. Chapter 27. 3 days after returning to his world, Naruto came to the conclusion that he would just sit in his living room and literally wait for the world to come to an end. Things had taken a strange turn in Konoha for his liking. Where before they wanted to chase him with torches and knives, now they wanted to bombard him with letters and gifts. All those people who had looked at him with murderous glares now wanted to treat him well and praise him. The reason was simple. After the dissolution of the council, there was no impediment to revealing the truth behind Naruto and the Nine Tails. This meant that the entire village felt like a bunch of complete idiots. Even though the storm that struck Konoha a few decades ago still seemed to be his responsibility, people preferred to leave it behind in order to wipe the slate clean with the young man. Since there were also plans to rebuild Yuzu, everyone wanted to build ties with the Uzumaki clan to take part in the business and social opportunities that would be available there. There were also the countless marriage proposals from girls he'd never met before and a sudden fan club that had sprung up around him. Actually, it had existed for some time, but now it could operate with full force. For all these reasons, Uzumaki preferred to wait at home for any sign that something was wrong. He knew he should keep an eye on Sakura, but considering she tended to be near him, he didn't see the need to pay her any more attention. I can't believe it, Naruto heard from the doorway. He then saw a blonde girl in purple rush over to greet him. I'd heard you changed, but this Ino said, looking intently at the blonde. Oh, Ino. I didn't notice them, said the boy, watching Team 10 enter the room. Didn't I hear them? What kind of greeting is that? Shikamaru said. I'm sorry. It's just strange seeing you after so long. We can do the same for you, Chaoji said. I see you're still just as bulky, Chaoji. You're in shape too. So what have you been doing all these years, Naruto? Your mother said you were on some kind of journey of self-discovery and took a long time off. I can say that I've discovered some things, but I still have a lot to learn, the blonde replied. Well, I'm interested to know what Naruto-kun learned during these years, said Rock Lee, arriving on the scene. You too. Said the blonde boy, seeing that Team 9 was also arriving in the room. Your mother invited us to the house. I hope our presence doesn't bother you, Nichi said. Not at all. Rather, they made it easier for me to find them. I wanted to see what had become of them. There's not much to report. We've been busy with a lot of A-rank missions, Tenten said. Being a Jounin is more complicated than it sounds. We don't have much time to train, but all the enemies we face have honed our skills, said Rock Lee. I can imagine. So what do you say? Do you want us to test our power? That's not a bad idea. I'd like to see what they've learned, Naruto said, standing up. Sakura, we'll be outside. Come if you want to see, he said, looking toward a supposedly empty room. What? You knew I was here? Said the pink-haired girl, opening the bedroom door. Yes. I also know that you have been following me for the past few days. As? Enbishoku Haki, Naruto said before going to his backyard. Anbu what? Is that some kind of vegetable? Choji asked the others, who were just as confused. Sakura, on the other hand, felt completely embarrassed. She thought she was hiding well. She planned to learn a little more about Naruto before making a direct approach, but unfortunately, she hadn't learned anything in the last few days. Without turning her face to Ino, who was mocking her blunder, Haruno followed the others to the courtyard. Lee, what exactly are you planning to do? You couldn't beat him 4 years ago, and you heard everything he did during the Chunin exams, Tenten said to her teammate. I will improvise. Will you improvise? I won't mind if you fight as a group. I know you guys are good at that kind of fighting, Naruto said. Keep in mind that we're Jounin now, Naruto. We know you're strong, but we can find a dozen ways to beat you if we don't put our minds to it, Shikamaru said. Really? I'd like to see it. I want to do it too, said Shinji, suddenly appearing in the courtyard with a small hexagonal box in his hands. Oh, you. What are you doing here? Then Naruto noticed something different about the other person. He looked a bit taller now, not as tall as him, but at least he was now the same height as everyone else present. I came to deliver the lost luggage, the boy said, revealing that what he was holding was a cage containing a very angry Kyuubi. Oh Kurama, it's a relief to see you. What are you doing there? This box is supposed to be a way to avoid getting lost again by this guy's teleportation, but his constant laughter makes me doubt the true function of this thing, said the fox. But isn't that one of those pet carriers? That. I knew you wouldn't realize until the last moment, said the purple-haired boy, laughing. If it weren't for the fact that I enjoy my little straying, I would tear you to pieces this instant. Where did you end up? Naruto asked. You won't believe it, but I ended up in the time of the clan wars. That was a long time ago. You can say that again. I spent nearly 10 years in that place before this guy found me. Yesterday I suddenly had the feeling that I should be somewhere else, and I used my Kamui. I was very surprised when I found the fox, said Shinji. And what were you doing all that time? The blonde man asked Kurama. Perhaps I did something wrong. I took it upon myself to find my brothers and warn them about everything humans would do to them in the future. That way, they would be prepared when they tried to seal them away. Kurama, Naruto said in a disapproving tone. I'm sorry. I felt I couldn't waste the opportunity to do something for them. Don't worry about his kind gesture. It happened in another dimension and apparently had no effect on this timeline, since everything remains the same, the dark-haired man pointed out. It sounds like they were messing with something they shouldn't have, Uzumaki declared. Anyway, how can they be so sure their actions had results? Humans are very persistent when they want something. We did something that would completely deter them, Kurama said with a sinister smile. Please don't tell me you committed a massacre. I wouldn't call it that. Only one person was killed and I have to say I feel a little bad about it, Shinji said. Who? Someone who is a relative of mine. Madara. Why did you do that? He was one of the first to attempt to control the Biju. If he were eliminated by one, it would cause the others to lose their intentions of controlling them, since he was one of the strongest ninja of the time. That sounds logical. But then why do you say you participated? I received help from the fox's counterpart in that dimension. I could have done it alone, but it had to be believable. Okay. Everything's clear now, Naruto said, stressed. Just tell me you won't do something like that again. First, this wasn't my idea. Second, I can't promise anything. These situations always happen to me unexpectedly. Third, you don't need to stress. I'm sure the people there will now have a good life without wars fought over the Biju. Maybe. Do you realize that this ability to travel to other worlds could help many people? I don't care. The only thing I can say I liked about my trip was this, said the purple-haired man, pulling a huge war fan from his dimension. I see, that's the weapon they say Madara used. Yes. Now, if it's not too much trouble, could you do that trick of yours with the orbs? I didn't want to use those weapons again, but there are some ideas I'd like to see put into practice. I have no problem. Meanwhile, the others stared at the two with huge sweat drops, completely baffled as they couldn't understand what on earth they were talking about. Pet-sized Biju. Clan wars. Madara. Everyone knew that things tended to take strange turns with Naruto, but there had to be a limit. With Kurama now at a more manageable size, Naruto laid out on the ground the weapons Shinji had requested for his transformation. These were the war fan, a trident, and the katana he always used. Wait a minute. Tenten said, intervening in the scene. I know that sword, she said, then looked at Shinji. You're that boy who helped our team in the land of hot springs. Are you serious? You don't recognize my face, but you do recognize my weapon, the boy said sarcastically. I find it hard to forget a weapon like that. Do you know each other? Naruto asked. It was brief. It happened before we met in Suna. And about this sword, it's something I found lying next to some skeletons. I really feel you're overestimating it. Maybe it's the other way around, Naruto said. Even if I use Busoshoku Haki, he shouldn't be able to withstand my blows. Whatever. Now it'll be a much better weapon, said the purple-haired man, preparing the orbs he wanted to apply. After several minutes of astonishment for the young people of Konoha, Naruto had finished his work. The fan with a Rajang orb took the shape of an Herglis with a zigzag edge like lightning bolts. The trident with a Shantian orb turned a sky blue color with tufts of hair of the same hue. Finally, the katana was reforged with an Ashen Lao Shan Lung orb, which shortened the weapon and reduced its guard, leaving it with a completely straight blade and a blue hilt. I'll call this one Levitane, Shinji said, admiring his weapon. What did you do? That katana was fine as it was, Tenten complained. I know he lost defensive qualities, but his attack is now much stronger. I don't understand what's gained by decorating those weapons in such a garish way, Shikamaru said. Just watch, said the purple-haired boy, holding a shuriken. He tossed it into the air like a coin and sliced it in half. Then the 2 pieces of the ninja star fell to the ground with a red-hot tear. Amazing, said the brunette. That reminds me that I haven't done something, said Naruto, making a Miraginasu orb appear. Wow. You got one of those, Shinji said. What do you plan to do with it? Another hammer wouldn't hurt. That's a waste. Why don't you make a scythe? It's not the type of weapon I use. Then why don't you let me trade it for you? I can offer you a Kurusapusu orb. That one with the crystals. I'll pass. How about one from Abyssal Aegicris? I don't think I need anything related to lightning. Good point. Then one of Inagami's books might interest you. He controlled bamboo and plants. I prefer something related to fire. I bet the orb of a dire Miralis will meet your expectations. They sound like a couple of kids swapping marbles, Shikamaru pointed out to those who were outside of that conversation. I'm afraid to say I agree, Ino said. Naruto, were you playing around this whole time? Sakura asked. Not at all, Naruto replied. I've been training and defeating tons of monsters. I have no doubt about that, but seriously, you had to take 4 years for that job. No. In fact, I've only been doing it for 2 years. Huh? What do you mean? It's a complicated issue. That means I might be able to match his level, Haruno thought happily. She had had much more training time, so she could surprise Naruto. Let me fight you. I want you to see how strong I've become. Okay, but first comes Lee's confrontation. Okay, just let me, said the aforementioned before receiving a swift punch to the stomach from Tenten. Lee meant it, Sakura can go first, said the brunette. Really? You don't have any problems? Naruto said. No. None, said the bull-haired boy, understanding his friend's intentions. In that case, we should go somewhere more open. Kushina-sensei will be upset if we damage anything here. Okay. Minutes later. What are you doing here? Kushina asked the young people she found outside Konoha. I thought you were coming to the house to visit Naruto. That's what we did, but those two wanted to see each other test our skills and we ended up here, Shikamaru said. You can start, Sakura, Naruto said to his former teammate. You're not doing well by underestimating me, said the girl, who then, with a movement of her hands, made a ring of water appear around her. Naruto then activated his Mangekyo Rinnegan. He wanted to see the battle in as much detail as possible. Niji and Shinji did the same, activating their ninjutsu. Sakura began by spinning around and throwing the ring that surrounded him like a pressurized water saw. Naruto then summoned his Deora sword and cut through the attack, freezing it instantly. Instead of seeing it as a failure, Haruno caused the ice shards to shatter and then hurtled down on Naruto like 100 icy needles. The blonde didn't need to shield himself to avoid the damage, but he had to admit it was rather annoying. Then Sakura condensed a huge mass of water around herself and fired it as a swift pressurized jet at the blonde boy. He hadn't planned to dodge it, but seeing that the attack sliced through the trees behind him as if they were nothing, he decided to jump and evaded. Pain. Fire rad infestation, said the boy as he unleashed a barrage of blue fireballs from his mouth. The pink-haired woman then jumped back and gracefully raised a wave that swallowed the fire and extinguished it irrevocably. The resulting steam then condensed on Naruto, forming a dome of water around him. The boy didn't bother using the gills of his animal path and instead formed a small sphere of Odoten chakra, breaking his confinement. Then Naruto floated to a higher altitude where he summoned a bow and channeled Koten chakra to fire several arrows of light at Sakura. The girl then formed several spheres of water and threw them at the projectiles, which by their nature did not pass through the water but were trapped and detonated in an intense flash. Suiton. Water arrow, Sakura said, condensing a large mass of liquid into a small point that was fired at the Uzumaki. Naruto was struck by what felt like hundreds of kilograms of water. He had already received attacks like this from the dragon Amagatsuchi, but he was surprised that Haruno was capable of such a thing. Good, Sakura. Your skill with Suiton is admirable, but I also need to see if you haven't neglected your strength, said the blonde boy, executing a shundo and moving at breakneck speed towards the girl. I think it's fair, the girl replied, then released the yin seal on her forehead. A black pattern covered her body, and the chakra she emitted increased noticeably. Their fists collided violently, and the surrounding area rumbled. Sakura then conjured a jet of water at her feet to retreat, then gathered enough momentum to deliver an even stronger blow. Naruto noticed Sakura applying a light layer of Busoshoku Haki to reinforce her attack. At another time, it would have been enough to make him retreat, but now that he had mastery over that power, things were different. The girl stepped back again and formed a massive torrent of water that took the shape of a dragon. It wasn't a simple Suiton. Water dragon missile, that technique surpassed it in scope. Suiton. Dragon's demolition waterfall, Sakura said as she threw that massive water. Yuzo. Kagamibaraki, armor. Mirror opening, said Naruto, to imbue his hands with haki and thus be able to create a larger opening when he struck with the fingers of both hands, which allowed him to divide the dragon in two and make it attack to the sides. I'm surprised by Sakura-chan's skill level, but Naruto's techniques are great too, said Rock Lee. They're certainly breathtaking. It's ridiculous to think they used to belong to a team that was considered one of the weakest, Shikamaru said. I always thought the opposite, Kushina said. Everyone has spectacular abilities. There's no doubt about that. Even Sasuke Uchiha can be considered an elite ninja with the Jujutsu he possesses, Nichi said. You're right. The fact that he and Menma obtained the Maguekio Sharingan made them some of the best shinobi of this generation. And what exactly did that pair do to achieve such a thing? Shinji asked the Redeed. They awakened him during a mission in the swamp country. They faced some kind of demon and awakened that power when the creature appeared to have killed Natsumi and Satsuna. It was stressful, but I'm glad it happened because it showed that Menma cares about his sister. That's something I can understand. Now tell me, what do you think about Sakura's abilities? Hasn't she done a great job? Naruto could end the battle in a jiffy if he wanted to, and the same goes for me, but I must say his powers are curious. That's undeniable, but she is undoubtedly the best Suiton user in the world. What he uses is not ninjutsu. Huh? Of course it is. Don't you see that it involves chakra manipulation? Yes, but it's something different. I've seen those movements she makes somewhere else, but I can't remember where, Shinji said, watching curiously as Sakura's dance made the water completely at her mercy. Chapter 28. Menma and Natsumi were relieved to be returning home. The mission had been a success and hadn't caused them any major problems, but the land of Earth wasn't a very pleasant place, and they were grateful to be back in their village, where they could enjoy a well-deserved rest. However, upon arriving home, they were surprised to find that their mother wasn't the only one waiting for them. The two of them didn't need anyone to tell them that the strapping blonde man waiting at the mansion table was Naruto. They were already very familiar with their brother's chakra and their respective Jujutsu, which made the recognition easy. Each of them had different feelings. Natsumi felt joy and sadness. Joy at seeing her brother after so long, and sadness at remembering how much she had missed out on because of her foolish desire for power. It was no surprise that Menma's first reaction was annoyance, as he immediately sensed the Kyuubi's chakra within his brother. However, he was then filled with a feeling of self-satisfaction because he had become so strong without the assistance of that furball and now felt he had surpassed his brother, who apparently did need it to be powerful. However, the feelings and words that could have been expressed at that moment were sidelined by a third person at the table. The twins wiped their eyes several times to make sure they weren't seeing double and made sure that person wasn't an annoying Jinjutsu or a Bushin, but neither of those was the case. Somehow his mother was at one end of the table eating her usual bowl of ramen, his brother was in the middle with the same food, and at the other end was his mother, devouring a much more abundant portion of the soup. The detail was that this Redeed was dressed like Naruto and looked somewhat younger. What kind of joke is this? Menma said, in a mixture of uncertainty and irritation at not understanding what he was seeing. Itsumi. Menma. It's good to see you're both okay, Naruto said, waving and ignoring the question. Internally, he felt just as frustrated by the situation, but he didn't know how to respond appropriately. Come in and have a seat. You've arrived just in time for a good bowl of ramen, said Kushina, who was sweating profusely. She had explained everything to her children regarding Naruto, but the new developments made things even more complicated. Maybe later, Natsumi said, in a phrase she would never have uttered under other circumstances. Who is she? The Uzumaki girl asked, pointing to the other Redeed present. The girl then flashed a confident smile and stepped away from the table, using the chair as a platform, lifting one of her feet and placing her arms on her waist to give a much more imposing view of herself. I'm glad you asked, mortals, the Redeed said in a voice that exuded extreme confidence. My name is none other than Kushina Thirstdaughter, the Storm Princess, she said as a background of lightning magically appeared, adding more drama to her introduction. Flashback. After Naruto reunited with the other shinobi of his generation and began his fight with Sakura, everything seemed to be in order, as the boy could integrate relatively normally into the village's dynamics while awaiting the end of the world. All that changed when a deafening flash interrupted the fight between the members of the former Team 7. Those present were stunned when they saw the intruder arrive at the camp. At first glance, she looked like a copy of Kushina, but as she approached the group, it became clear that she was someone else entirely. To begin with, the girl looked younger than the Uzumaki matriarch. That is to say, the matriarch herself looked young due to her long lifespan, but this girl appeared to be in her early teens. Her eyes were electric blue, in contrast to the woman's purple. Her attire was more or less like Sakura Daughter's, consisting of a white skirt attached to armor that covered her hips and entire torso, where a pair of double-bladed axes rested. Her shoulders were bare, and she wore gauntlets that covered her hands. Finally, the girl wore a peculiar helmet with two wings on its sides. "Who are you?" Naruto said seriously, pointing his sword at him. "Huh?" the girl exclaimed, surprised to see the blonde boy. "What? How could you say that to me, big brother?" "Big brother?" exclaimed everyone present except Naruto and Shinji. "This doesn't feel right," said the last one, sweating profusely because of how bizarre the moment was. "What do you mean, big brother?" Naruto said in amazement. "Well, you were born first, which makes me the youngest," she said, her tone not sarcastic but serious. "So, how did you get here? Did our aunt help you?" Said Naruto. As far as he knew, he had only confirmed that he had a couple of relatives on his father's side, and both were male. "How did you do it? It's not fair that she sent you first when she made me do all those awful chores," she pouted. "And I was helping her look for her son." "Your son? You're acting very strange today. Don't you remember that Shinji decided to run away from the castle?" "Shinji? You mean that guy?" Naruto said, pointing at the purple-haired boy. "And now my common sense tells me it's time to make a run for it," Shinji said to himself before trying to escape. The boy didn't have time to activate his Kamui and retreat because the newly arrived Reed approached like a bullet and grabbed him with a strong hug. "So here you are, Shinji." The girl exclaimed excitedly, smothering the boy in her arms. "I was so worried sick. You shouldn't have left so suddenly without telling me," she said, holding him tight. The Reed was very strong, and since she was wearing armor, Shinji was practically in a vise, which didn't allow him to move or breathe. "Do you know this boy?" "How could I not? He's my darling." "I won't even bother asking what that means," said Naruto, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead. "I do want a clear and concise answer," Shinji said, managing to break free. "Who the hell are you? Do you two have amnesia or what? How can you not remember me?" "Me, Kushina Thirstdaughter, the great storm princess," said the Reed in a theatrical pose. "Do you have something to say, Shinji?" said Naruto. "Absolutely not. But it seems she knows you. I swear by the river Styx that this is the first time I've seen him." "And what does that mean?" "Some friends used to say that when they wanted to make it clear that they were telling the truth or that they would keep a promise." "That's completely stupid," Thirstdaughter declared. "How can you tell me you never saw me when we grew up together? You're confusing me with someone else. What's more, I think you've come to the wrong place." "I'm not wrong. I was able to find you, Naruto, and Mom." "Did our aunt also send Mom?" the Reed said, looking at the other Kushina. "Mom?" exclaimed Uzumaki at that comment. "Wait a minute. Who is this crazy woman who suddenly appeared?" said Sakura, who did not look pleased at all by the interruption. "What do you mean, crazy? Watch your words, mortal. You shouldn't challenge someone who is above you," said the Reed in armor. "Don't underestimate me. I'm just as strong as you," Sakura said, showing no sign of doubt in her words. Kushina then took one of her axes and without saying another word, slammed it against the floor in the direction of the pink-haired girl. In an instant, a fissure over 50 meters long opened in the ground from the impact of the axe, splitting all the trees in its path. It couldn't be said that the girl had generated a sheer wave. It was simply the raw power unleashed by the attack. Sakura was unharmed, as the crack was only a few centimeters away from her. However, it was clear to her that there was still a gap between her and her opponent. "It seems our guest isn't lying about her origins," Shinji commented. "That's right. Only Sakura Daughter and I can do something like that," Naruto continued. Naruto heard the comment and then stormed off, completely frustrated. She felt that all her efforts had suddenly been overshadowed again and she needed to collect her thoughts. "Now let's go home," said Thirstdaughter. "You're making a huge mistake," said the purple-haired man. "We're not who you think we are," said Naruto. "Ha! Then who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?" said the Reed in a somewhat sarcastic tone. Then flashback. It took hours to explain to Kushina that she was dealing with people from another dimension, and it took even longer for her to grasp the concept of multiple dimensions. The Redeed was the type of person who had her head in the clouds, in every sense of the word. The girl grew up fully aware that she was Asgardian and was not at all familiar with the life of mortals as she called them, so her behavior was very different from that of the known demigods. Naruto and Shinji now had a very clear understanding of their origins, but they preferred not to delve into anything further as they felt they already had a lot on their plate. The purple-haired boy was direct and asked the Redeed to return the way she came, but unfortunately for him, she was stuck. She had been sent to that world without any means of returning. For a moment I felt envious for not being on your trip, but it seems it's just been a jumble of problems, Sasuke said to the blonde boy in a village square. You're absolutely right. It was fun the first few days, but it turned into a real mess in the end, Naruto said with a sigh. And what can you tell me? I don't know what could possibly interest you. Many of our missions pale in comparison to what you've done. I'm sure they've done a lot. Well, I can say that the mission we had in Suna was quite memorable. We encountered a ninja named Sasori who kidnapped shinobi to turn them into ninja puppets. Aren't those things very fragile? They are somewhat, but that guy was looking for people with Kekkei Genkai, so he was a very tough opponent. It was kind of strange, since he expressed many times that he wanted to turn us into art. What can you tell me about my siblings? With a guest in my house, I haven't been able to talk to them properly. What can I say? I feel somewhat guilty about everything my father and Hiashi did to them. Menma may still be a jerk sometimes, but Natsumi is a great girl. Really? Are you saying that because you're still seeing her or because you feel threatened by my question? I'm telling the truth, said the Uchiha, waving his hands comically. She tends to act immaturely at times, but in the end, she's quite dedicated to what she does. You should see the style she's developed. Even with all the scandal surrounding her, she's still very well respected among the Hyuga. Speaking of clans, did you seriously get your taijutsu by witnessing their supposed death? It was strange. At first, I thought she and my sister had died because of the demon we faced. I felt so much hatred toward that thing and felt I had to kill it, but then Menma and I saw how Natsumi managed to use a flying thunder god technique and escape with Setsuna. We felt we had to protect them from danger and were able to access the power of our Sharingan. I must thank you. It would have been very unpleasant to find out that you had somehow died. We may not be as tough as you, but we know how to defend ourselves. I know, but Naruto wanted to express his concerns, but then he saw a squad of medical ninja, led by Shizune, carrying an apparently unconscious Tsunade towards the hospital. What could have happened? Sasuke said, shocked by the scene. It must be something to do with age, Naruto said with a hint of sarcasm. No, in fact they're taking her to the emergency room for alcohol poisoning, said a white person with black hair who approached the young people. Alcohol poisoning? Tsunade? Sasuke said, confused. It's not like I know much about her, but it's impossible that that woman has a problem with alcohol. If he can have them when he faces Thor's daughter in a drinking contest. Ugh. What did Kushina do this time? Said Naruto. Tsunade was drinking at a bar, as usual. Already a bit tipsy, she called Kushina a brat as she walked by, which Kushina didn't appreciate. They started arguing and decided a sake drinking contest was the least violent way to settle things. To Tsunade's dismay, Kushina downed the sake like it was water. Please tell me she's not drunk. No. When I say he drank it like water, I mean it didn't affect him at all. However, I don't think we should lose track of him. I'll make sure not to. Thank you, Haku. Aren't you that girl from Kiri in the Suna exam? Yes, but clean your eyes. I'm a boy, Haku said with a sour face. I'm pretty sure Haku was a girl, Sasuke said. I had a mission with her a while back and she hung out with the girls. I have to question your reasoning. The last time I checked these pants I was a boy. I'm very sure of what I'm saying, Naruto said. The only way I could be wrong is if you're Shinji. DSK, Haku said as he lost his transformation and changed back into his true form. I thought my disguise was perfect. First of all, use the correct gender, Naruto said with a seriously face. The Haku I knew was a man. That complicates my database. Why the costume? I thought you'd appreciate it if I didn't show up in front of your brothers and it's best if I keep a low profile with your little sister around here. She still teases me about me being her sweetheart. Well, keep doing that. She may not be my real sister, but I'd prefer you keep your hands off her. You're hurting me, Shinji said, transforming into Fu. Do you think I'm someone who takes advantage of others? Lakasen said, perfectly imitating the Nanabi Jinchuriki. You're a cynic to say such a thing in this disguise. Matatabi said, before Fu went into the village. That boy is weird. Don't even mention it. And how does he plan to go incognito if he has a henge on him? Any shinobi can detect him. That thing is way too advanced, Naruto said, somewhat surprised. I can't tell the difference between it and the Fu we know. I can't even tell if what he's using is a hinge or not. Thank goodness we don't have him as an enemy. You said it. On the outskirts of Konoha. While Sasuke thought it was good not to have demigods as enemies, Sakura thought the opposite. She was fed up with the fact that this kept her away from Naruto. At that moment, she was simply sitting in the middle of a lake, pondering how she could teach the girl who had just appeared a lesson. It was somewhat unsettling that she resembled her sensei so much, but she still had to make her pay. She had planned to ask Naruto out on a date and the girl's sudden appearance had thwarted her plans. It seems something is bothering you, Sakura-san, said a voice that pulled the girl from her thoughts. Huh? Good morning, Uchiha-san, Haruno said to the black-haired man who appeared behind her. You know you can call me Shisui. You don't need so many formalities, said the man wearing the standard Konoha shinobi uniform. I'm sorry. I just don't know where my head is. Is something bothering you? It's not something you need to worry about. You know you can trust me. Shisui Uchiha was one of Konoha's most prominent jounin, which meant he interacted with most of the village's shinobi. Sakura was no exception, and the two knew each other well after completing numerous missions together. I'm sorry, it's a rather private matter. You could say it's a girl thing, Sakura said. Then I have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to some people, Shisui said. Haruno didn't hesitate to follow the boy to an apartment in Konoha, located in the outer part of the city. It wasn't a strange place. It was an ordinary apartment with a large living room already occupied by 3 people. Sakura recognized Temari and Akatsuki among them, who, like her, had changed over time. The ninja from Iwa was still very robust, but now he looked more muscular and serious. He had a pointed beard, and his attire consisted of a brown obi with an orange scarf. The 4th Kazukiya's daughter also looked more mature. Her braids were longer, and she seemed quite strong-willed. She wore a yellow kimono tied with a red belt. The 3rd person was a man with tan skin and long green hair, full lips, and a face that didn't hesitate to show the happiness he felt upon seeing Haruno there. He wore a dark blue vest and grey pants that covered his bandaged body. Your lateness was starting to annoy me, Shisui. But now I see it was worth the wait, said the green-haired man. I apologize for the inconvenience, Raiga. However, I believe it's appropriate to say that the time has come for us to move, said the Uchiha. Excuse me. I don't understand you, said Sakura, a little nervous about the unusual meeting. I'm sorry, Raiga said, approaching the pink-haired woman. We're skipping the introductions our meeting deserves. My name is Raiga Kurasuki, but you can call me Aldramik, little sister, the man said, a greenish glint in his eyes. Chapter 29. Don't take it personally, Sakura Balderdottir said, twirling her sword in her hands. But it's my duty to protect the world, she declared before gripping her weapon firmly. And that means you must die, she exclaimed before hurling it at her namesake, Haruno, who saw her chest pierced completely by the sword's gleaming blade. This can't mean anything good, Naruto said. Currently, the boy was in his living room with his Bijuu partner, where he had begun meditating to properly use the clairvoyance of Kagura's mind's eye. I agree, Kurama replied, using the link he had with the Uzumaki to see that vision. I thought it would be a good idea to use my ability to see if I had a clue about what would happen in the future, but now I have more questions. Let's be honest. It's impossible that Sakura would attack her counterpart like that. It's surely a trick by someone. You have a good point. In any case, it's best if we deal with the other matter you mentioned. Thank you. I really want us to clear things up. Naruto then took the shield made by his mother and charged the engravings on it with chakra. Each one denoted things like altitude and latitude, allowing him to go anywhere without having been there before. That was convenient because the place where Naruto and Kurama were going wasn't exactly very popular. The destination in question was Cemetery Mountain, a location in the north of the Shinobi continent. It was a decidedly strange place, not only because of the gigantic carcasses that adorned its surface, but also because, despite having a large entrance to the sea, it was not claimed by any of the surrounding countries. The reason was that everyone was afraid of those lands. Countless disappearances, both civilians and shinobi, had given rise to numerous legends about the specters and monsters that dwelled there. They weren't entirely wrong, because as far as Kurama was concerned, there was one of the worst monsters in the shinobi world. Naruto ruthlessly stormed an underground cave that lay beneath the mountain. Its location was known to Kurama because it wasn't entirely natural. Someone had made the place his base, and that person was none other than Madara Uchiha. As the fox explained to the demigod, his encounter with the Uchiha from the other dimension had 2 stages. The first instance occurred when he interrupted a battle between Madara and Hashirama. There, he helped his counterpart free himself from the Sharingan and prevented the Senju from capturing him, thus causing the shinobi to abandon the idea of going after the other Bijuu. The second was to pursue his enemy after he escaped by faking his death with a Sharingan technique called Izanagi. There he managed to put an end to the Uchiha once and for all. Or at least in that world. That was why they were at that moment in Cemetery Mountain. Since Madara hadn't shown his face in that dimension after his defeat at the hands of Hashirama, the Bijuu suspected that the man was still hiding in the shadows. Their suspicions were quickly relieved when they found a scene of ruin in the cave. The statue-like structure adorned the center of the room. It could only be described as being just as imposing as the Bijuu in their normal size, as it was difficult to truly understand. It was as burned and deteriorated as the rest of the room. However, Naruto and his companion knew what it was. "Is this the Jito Meizo statue?" Naruto asked. "Yes. I hadn't seen her before, but she must be. Just looking at her gives me the creeps," the fox replied. "Speaking of scary things, I don't think you need to be nervous about the other issue," the blonde man said, pointing under the statue. There stood a stone throne, where a skull sat with what appeared to be an expression of surprise. The Kyuubi approached him and sniffed him, then made a gesture of disgust. "There's no doubt about it. This is, or was, Madara Uchiha," the fox declared. "It seems that in the end, age got the better of him." "Apparently," Kurama said, turning around and striking the throne forcefully with his tails. "According to Baldur's Daughter, Orochimaru and his associates have ways to revive the dead using their genetic material." "Then I must get rid of this place," said Naruto, receiving a nod from his companion. The demigod began making some hand seals and then proceeded to strike the ground with great force. "The Oten Mountain of fruits and flowers," the blonde man said, summoning an explosion of lava that began to flood the chamber. "This will be enough to make this place unreachable." "I hope so," said Kurama. "Now let's return to Konoha," said the Uzumaki, using his shield again. "This time I must prevent my vision from becoming reality." In Konoha. The curious aspect of the Uzumaki's teleportation method was that a rune mark was etched into the ground where they appeared, like a burn. Nothing serious, unless you happen to appear in someone's garden or on their rug. That's why Naruto headed to a Konoha training ground to avoid that problem and go unnoticed. However, he still caught the attention of someone close to him. "Wow. What is that technique?" his sister Kushina asked excitedly, rushing towards him. "Kushina?" Naruto exclaimed, surprised to find the redeed. "What are you doing here?" "I'm just killing time. The opponents here aren't very strong, and I can't find Shinji anywhere," the girl said with a long sigh. Apparently the girl was training with her axes, as behind her there were some targets with multiple cuts on them. "Have you been fighting with the villagers?" Naruto asked, referring to the first thing the redeed said. "Absolutely not. I have only faced those who claim to be the strongest warriors in these lands." "And those are they?" "There's the blind guy with blue hair who hits with his fingers, the dog boy with his flea-ridden friend, and the weirdo with the eyebrows. That last one at least was a worthy opponent," she said with a smile. "I almost feel sorry for those guys," Kurama remarked. "Kushina, I don't know what kind of customs they have back in Asgard, but you can't act like that here. You need to be more restrained," Naruto explained. "What are you talking about?" "I mean, this place is inhabited by humans, and they have different customs than you're familiar with. Didn't your mother tell you about that?" "Mom doesn't talk much about her life in Midgard. She only explained a few things to me about a kind of magic they practiced in her homeland." "You're probably talking about Fuinjutsu." "Yes. It's a bit confusing, but I understand because it's very similar to the runes our Aunt Loki uses." "Yes. I had already been told that Fuinjutsu can make use of those things. That would explain why you can use bridges like the Bifrost." "Bifrost?" "A bridge guarded by Heimdall. It usually just looks like a rainbow structure, but it can also create portals to worlds far from Asgard." "It's good to know I have something very useful," Naruto said happily about his shield. "Who did that thing?" "Or well, my mother." "Wow. Although to be honest, it doesn't surprise me. Mom tried to make a mobile copy of the Bifrost." "And was it successful?" "I'm sure he would have succeeded, but grandfather Odin ordered him not to." "Because?" "He said it was not convenient to have an instrument that allowed access to Asgard and that was not monitored." "That's too bad, it would have been so then." Naruto smiled at the thought that came to him. "Kushina, how much do you remember about that Bifrost? I mean, does it leave marks like my teleportation does?" "Indeed. The Bifrost leaves huge marks on the floor when it's used." "And do you think you could use this shield to create a portal to Asgard?" Iridid then smiled excitedly and nodded at the idea. "Yes, although we'll need to make a larger circle of runes to make it more effective." "Okay, then go back to the house and start making preparations. It would be a great help if I had a guide to the runes for Asgard. But first I'd need to test that portal. I have to compare if they're the same." "I don't think it's a good idea," the boy said thoughtfully. "Come on, it can't be that complicated." "Okay, but I'll be the one to operate it. You'll just watch." It's not fair. You never let me use your things. This isn't a toy you can let just anyone handle, said Naruto, starting to carry the device to a nearby location. I'm not a child. Kushina exclaimed, then lunged at the shield. Hey. Said Naruto, trying to push his sister away. Be careful. Warned the fox, taking a step back. Being near two super strong people struggling with something was especially dangerous. Naruto was aware of that, which is why he didn't use his full strength. Besides, he didn't want to damage the artifact. Luckily for him, the shield was strong enough to withstand the commotion, but since it was already activated, he unconsciously caused the chakra of both young men to combine and reinforce the teleportation. An intense flash enveloped the pair and disappeared. Ugh. I don't know why this doesn't surprise me anymore, the fox said to himself. I hope it doesn't take them too long to get back. Elsewhere. Without being able to stop it, the pair of thunder demigods fell flat on their faces into a lake. It was a very shallow lake, so they felt the impact of the fall. Okay, this is more hectic than the Bifrost, Kushina said. This is nothing. Time travel is worse, Naruto said, getting up. See what happens when you use something you don't know. The blonde boy exclaimed. I'm sorry, the girl said, looking down. You need to be more careful. Using teleportation techniques is not a game. I'll keep that in mind, the girl said, now looking up. Where are we? This place seems familiar, Naruto said, analyzing the area. Yes, this is the lake that was near my house in the Tsukahime dimension. It looks like there's someone over there, said the Reed, pointing into the distance. You're right, that's it. Naruto couldn't continue speaking, as a flash of light blinded him and silenced him. Minutes later. Damn it, couldn't you have chosen a more inopportune moment? Said Sakura Belladonna as she finished drying her hair, with an obvious blush on her face. I'm sorry. How was I supposed to know I'd show up while you were taking a bath? Said the blonde man, his eyes still sore. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you're back. Have you taken care of your unfinished business? The truth is, no. Then I have a more important question. Why does your mother seem to have shrunk? She's not my mother, she's my sister, Naruto said with some discomfort. Excuse me, what? Long story. Well, I'd like to hear it. I must say, her appearance intrigues me. I can say the same about you, said the Reed. First of all, why do you have Uncle Boulder's sword? It was a gift from him. Boulder is my father. Really? Kushina said, surprised. I find it hard to believe he got a partner. He tends to be very bitter. He's certainly not the most jovial person in the world. However, the fact that you know this must mean you know him. Where are you from? Well, from Asgard. Where else would an Asgardian like me come from? Hours later. Naruto was pleased that Belldar's first encounter with his sister went much better than her last one with Sakura Haruno. To be honest, he had to admit that the demigoddess was much more open with Kushina than when she first appeared before him. Of course, that was the least of his worries at that moment. Even though Belldar had used her powers to blind him, he had managed to get a perfect shot of the demigoddess's body without any kind of implement to hide her beauty. This action led him to remember the very uncomfortable conversation he had with his mother a few days ago. That's right, even though Thorson had knowledge of extremely complex and enigmatic subjects that many would not understand, he did not feel good at all when he received the lecture. Kushina knew her son would soon be embarking on one of his long journeys again, and she felt it was appropriate to instruct him on matters of love. More than preventing it, she wanted to hasten the arrival of a grandchild. It wasn't very responsible of her, but she wanted to ensure Naruto's mind wasn't solely focused on adventures and battles. The detail was that this wasn't the young man's fault. He had instinctively always ignored the matter because it wasn't something that concerned him. He was a member of the Asgard Court of War Gods and therefore had only focused his attention on things that would help him perform better in that role. Of course, now that the whole thing was thrown in her face, not even all the willpower she had could prevent her hormones from kicking in. She already knew she was attracted to Belldar's, but at the same time, she knew she'd have a hard time with her. Belldar's still had issues with her past and assumed she wouldn't allow herself anything until she could find Satsuki. At that moment, she remembered Shikamaru's words, because he always said that women were trouble. She usually dismissed it as an exaggeration, but now she understood him perfectly and agreed with him completely. Since Sakura and Kushina hadn't finished their conversation and he had too many doubts about his own thoughts to intervene, he decided to experiment a little with his shield. His current location indicated that he could travel between dimensions, which took a weight off his shoulders, since he was no longer dependent on Shinji. The problem was that now he had to master how the device worked. It wasn't entirely dependent on the runes as he had assumed, so he had to find out what was driving it. He decided not to dwell on the matter and simply activated the shield, thinking of any random destination. In a park in Konoha. Damn, Jiraiya really had some nerve when he wrote this, said Fu, glancing at a small purple-covered book with orange edges. Tsunade will definitely kill him if she finds out about this book. Is that what's worrying you? Jayuki asked. Doesn't what you just read bother you? The octopus questioned. No. A couple of years on the internet makes one unperturbed. Moments later, a glow appeared in front of Shinji and Naruto appeared with him. Of course, there are still things that take one by surprise, the girl said, looking at Naruto. What brings you here, curly-haired boy? That's what I'd like to know, said Naruto, looking at the runes on his shield. Interesting. You managed to minimize one of those teleportation seals. Good for you, said Fu, returning to his reading. Naruto then took it off in a flash and read the cover to see what it was about. Ichiha Special. The Snake in the Insurmountable Tree. Ultra Secret Edition, said the blonde man, raising an eyebrow at the peculiar title. Give me that. Demanded Fu, reclaiming his property with a desperate movement. That's one of the books Jiraiya writes, right? Yes, but it wasn't the one you know who did it. I suppose you got it in another dimension. What's it about? I don't think its contents would be to your liking. It's only suitable for very perverted people, he said, making the book disappear. About that. I would feel more comfortable if you assumed your true form. Is your sister around? No. She's with Sakura in the Tsukahime dimension. That's a relief, said the purple-haired boy, assuming his regular appearance. What type of henge are you using? Kurama calls it kitsune henge. Judging by the times it saved my neck, I won't deny it's much better than a traditional one. Anyway, what's with this sudden curiosity about Ichiha? It's not something I'm going to discuss with you. I suppose it would be better if I spoke with Jiraiya. As you wish. I did want to talk to you about Sakura, too. Then Naruto pretended to be confused. Oh right, I have to specify which one I'm talking about, Shinji corrected himself. I'm talking about Haruno. I put the subject aside because of your sister's arrival, but I finally managed to remember where I saw the moves she used against you. Heard. Water control. Water control. It is the name given to the absolute control of water with chakra. Aren't you referring to Suiton? No. We're talking about completely different levels, the boy said, making a whiteboard appear out of thin air. Then I'd draw a person's chakra system and the circle of the elemental natures. Forget everything Tsukahime told us about her psychotic mother-in-law and that damn tree. Chakra is everywhere, not just in animals and plants as is commonly believed. The ground, the air, the water, and even fire have traces of this energy. Where are you trying to get to? It's no coincidence that people are born with a particular elemental nature. In some way, each of us aligns with a specific element and that's why we can later perform certain ninjutsu with ease. I understand. That's why I was born with multiple affinities without having a Kekkei Genkai for them. Naturally. Being the son of the one who controls the storms grants you an insane affinity for various elements. So you're implying that Haruno is also a demigoddess? I can't say for sure. You see, in my world there are two ways to use chakra. There's ninjutsu with all its derivatives, and then there's elemental control. He then pointed to the chakra model on the board with or without affinity. The human body has clearly defined tenketsu that it uses to manipulate nature. I'm aware of that. Even techniques like lightning release armor have their limits. If someone started emitting lightning release from every pore of their body, they'd flicker on and off like a match. Well, an elemental control user doesn't have that limit. They remake their chakra system to have a total connection with the element they are attuned to. It doesn't sound like such a bad thing. It depends on how you look at it. Whoever does that loses their ability to use chakra of other elements, even neutral ones like yin and yang. Basically. He loses his ability to use ninjutsu, said Naruto, now alarmed by the information. As I recall, she could still use her medical ninjutsu to increase her strength, but it would be wise to warn her about what she's getting herself into. Isn't there a possibility that you're mistaken? The beauty of elemental control is that the tenketsu are configured to allow people to control the elements with any movement of their bodies. They no longer need hand seals or other means to use the elemental chakra they wield. I don't think Sakura would start dancing in your battle just because she wanted to. I don't think that's a very valid point, Naruto said, thinking about all the fighting styles he knew. Aside from the loss of ninjutsu, are there any other risks with elemental control? There shouldn't be. Unless. Shinji said, becoming thoughtful. I need answers right now. Don't worry. I doubt what I have in mind will be a problem. It's far too advanced for just anyone in this world to use. Don't you remember Kiri completely devastated? That's right. It's best if we look for your friend right now. Yes. We should take advantage of the fact that Kushina is with Balder daughter. Maybe that way she won't. What's happening to us? Said the pink-haired woman in armor, arriving at the scene with Kushina. And more importantly, what do you mean by Kiri being completely devastated? Sakura. How did you get back to Konoha so fast? Tsukahime gave us a hand. Since you used that shield, it wasn't difficult for her to give Kushina the necessary instructions to adjust the seal of her dimension, the pink-haired woman said, pointing to the shield. See. I told you that by using your artifact, I could learn to use the runes properly, said the Redeed, looking very proud. That doesn't excuse how careless you are, but it doesn't matter now, Naruto said, turning his attention back to the situation. The situation is as follows. Then Naruto proceeded to explain the experience he had after leaving the Tsukahime dimension. I can't believe it. Time travel. Said the armored girl, looking questioningly at Shinji. You don't think I just sat around while you and Naruto trained, do you? I developed a few tricks during that time, the dark-haired man said. I wouldn't expect anything else, but it sickens me that you have such power. Don't get too upset. I gained that ability, but I don't plan to use it regularly. I'm in this situation because some people abuse that ability. Okay. I'll put that aside for now. I'm really worried about what you just said about those 5 kings, he said, looking at Naruto. Why? The boy asked, trying to delve into his classmates' intentions. How can you ask that? I've fought countless times for the well-being of the shinobi world. Even though this isn't my dimension, I won't stand idly by and watch everything die at the hands of those vile beings. I don't doubt that, but we must locate those people as soon as possible. We must prevent them from making any move. So what are we waiting for? Let's find that nymph, said Kushina. A nymph falls short compared to the one we seek, Kushina, Shinji pointed out. Okay. I'll look for Haruno, but please avoid using violence as a first option, Naruto said. It's strange that you would make such a request, but I think it's fine. Dialogue is better than the sword, Sakura said. Then Uzumaki proceeded to search for Sakura using his sensory abilities. This is strange. Haruno isn't in the village, said Naruto. Perhaps he is on a mission, said Balderdottir. I'll ask Jiraiya. And Lot Ori to Hokage. No. I haven't given Sakura any missions lately, Jiraiya said, checking his records. But I can't detect her in the village, said the blonde man. She is a Jounin, so she has some freedom of movement in the land of fire. That means it can be anywhere. I'm afraid so. Why the concern? Let's say I want to stop a disaster. I wouldn't expect anything else from you, the old man said, seeing that his godson was clearly worried. Naruto, I don't know if this will help you, but I'd like to talk to you about a certain prophecy. That's really not the kind of thing I'd like to hear right now, but I'm all ears anyway. Thank you. This prophecy was recited by the great Toad sage, Gamamaru, several years ago. It's rather curious because it's the only one he's ever corrected in his long life, the Sannin explained. Very well, here it is. Like every story, it all begins with a small deception. From one of these will be born a boy who can make both the earth and the sky tremble. Although his path among the shinobi will be ephemeral, his work will be of great importance to their lives, because within him also lies the power to end or continue the eternal cycle that destroys the world. On his journey, he will not be alone, for the flower of rain and the withered light will be on his path. Beware the serpent's offspring. Although its venom can heal, its destiny is destruction. Jiraiya said, only to be interrupted. Okay. I must say, the precision of that thing disturbs me a little, Naruto remarked, comparing those things to events in his life. His mother had lied to Minato about his paternity, and he literally had the power to make everything tremble. He'd barely paid attention to his shinobi career, but he still made it his business to help his class, as he had done in Suna. The rain flower had to be Sakura Haruno, since her name and water manipulation skills matched the title. To say that Balderdottir was a withered light was harsh, but it fit his attitude and power. As for the snake, it could be none other than Shinji. Balderdottir always referred to him that way, and even though he didn't like how he did it, he managed to get his brothers to correct their behavior. I must say that's only the first part. It wasn't until a year ago that Gamamaru was able to complete the prophecy. Then say what's missing. When the forces of nature rise, the chosen one must take a stand. Whatever that stand may be, he must confront the power of the sleeping tyrant. To do so, he must seek the aid of his brothers and sisters, whether by blood or by arms, though in the end only the chosen one can determine the outcome, the Hokage concluded. I really would like to have a word with that Gamamaru, but that's not very important. Now I have a clear idea of how I can find Sakura. I'm glad I could be of help. Naruto then returned to the plaza where Kushina and the others were. Well? Balderdottir asked. Jiraiya doesn't know where Haruno is, but he gave me an idea of how to get her, he said, closing his eyes. What will you do? I'm going to connect with the environment. I want to find any weather phenomena that feel out of the ordinary. Wow. You can do that already? Said Kushina. Yes. After practicing meditation a lot, I was able to connect with that impulse that nature has. Do you think it will work? We have no precise idea of when those subjects will begin their attacks, Shinji said. No. We do have it, Sakura interjected. Tsukahime rushed us back to this world because she sensed an impending calamity. It's a fact that she's referring to the 5 kings. Good. I don't know what will become of them all, but I think I've located Sakura, Naruto said, opening his eyes. To the west, about 2,000 kilometers from here, there's a light rain that's unusual for this area. So, 2,000 kilometers, said the purple-haired man, examining a map he conjured with his Jujutsu. Yes, there's a small village there, between the land of rivers and the land of wind. Sorry, I haven't been there long enough to use my Kamui. Don't worry, I'll take care of it, said Naruto. Minutes later. Due to its proximity to the land of wind, the village of Tsuba continually faced severe droughts that damaged its crops. That's why its inhabitants were so excited by the sudden rain that fell upon their land. A certain pink-haired woman, standing atop a hill, witnessed this. She stood there unconcerned in the downpour, despite her less than warm clothes. It's curious, isn't it? Haruno said to Naruto and the others once she noticed them behind her. Seeing how happy people get over a simple drizzle. Are you the one who caused this? Asked Uzumaki. Yes. I just had to tell all the water in the sky to fall gently, the girl said calmly. What do you think about that? She asked, turning around. I must say, it's a marvelous skill. Controlling a mass of water like the one he's manipulating is no easy feat. It's not really that difficult. Many shinobi can do it. However, they don't. Do you know why? No. Because a light rain like that wouldn't hurt anyone. Shinobi only develop their ninjutsu to harm others. That's not true, and you know it, Balderdata retorted. Medical ninjutsu was developed for the purpose of helping people. Medical ninjutsu is merely a painkiller for the disease caused by shinobi and their ninjutsu. They have dared to use the forces of nature to destroy everything at will, Haruno said, as the rain began to intensify. I don't dispute anything you're saying, but you need to calm down, Sakura, said Naruto. No Naruto. I can't calm down. Now that I understand the world is in crisis, I must take care of healing it, the pink-haired girl said as her eyes began to glow blue and several bands of water surrounded her body. And to do such a thing, I must annihilate all those who use chakra so indiscriminately. Then the rain began to fall with such force that it seemed like hail. The young people present remained unfazed by the phenomenon, but they could see how the people in Tsuba began to take shelter. Fine. Don't take it personally, Sakura Balderdata said, beginning to draw her sword. However, she couldn't complete the action, as Naruto's hand stopped her. I'm sorry, but I can't allow you to do what you're planning, said the blonde man. I hope you know what you're doing, said Balderdata, lowering her guard. Yes. I can't allow you to hurt my partner. Just a teammate, Haruno said with disappointment. Our time as a team was short, but I at least expected you to consider me a friend, she said, adding a touch of anger to her voice. I guess I can't even think of taking up space in your heart, she said as the rain began to turn very cold. Naruto remained silent in response to Sakura's words. It's not that I want to be a jerk by interrupting this curious declaration of love, but, Shinji said, stepping to the front of the group. I'll opt to knock you out right now. Then you can discuss whatever you want, the purple-haired boy said, firing an electric shock from his hands. Those present knew that the attack would cause great damage to Sakura because of all the water covering her, but they did not expect it to make her literally explode in midair. Oh. That's not a good sign, said Shinji, whose chest was then pierced by a dazzling green beam that came out of nowhere. Shinji. Kushina exclaimed, shocked by what had happened. However, she couldn't go to her relative's aid as the ground beneath her feet turned into a pool of quicksand that swallowed her completely. Balderdata could not say anything about what had happened as the oxygen in her lungs was sucked out by a vortex that appeared around her, causing her to fall suffocated. Naruto didn't know how to react to his companions falling so quickly, but he did see a mass of water droplets begin to gather where Haruno had been moments before, forming her body. It was essentially the opposite of the destruction of an elemental shadow clone. For Naruto, it was quite disconcerting how an inanimate element could take the form of a living being. This feeling intensified when the same thing happened with a mound of earth, a whirlwind of air, a cluster of sparks, and a sphere of fire. Uzumaki easily recognized Shisui, Temari, and Akatsuki. He was only surprised by the blue-haired boy with a wild look who appeared. Take it easy, little sister, Raiga said to Sakura, who looked dazed. The first elemental reconstruction is always difficult. Who the hell are you? Naruto exclaimed furiously. What the hell did you do? He said, referring to his classmates. We just put on a presentation tailored to your tastes, the man said mockingly. My name is Aldramik, Raiga said. You can call me Sylph, said the girl Naruto recognized as Temari. Ashmal, said Akatsuki. You already know our sister Shiva, Shisui said, gesturing to Sakura, then looking intently at the blonde boy. And I am Ifrit. We are the 5 elemental kings, and we are here to cleanse the world. Chapter 30. The ground cracked with Kushina's sudden exit, and without a word she threw her axes at Akatsuki like boomerangs. The weapons were obstructed by a powerful gale raised by Sylph, who then directed a barrage of wind blades at the girl. They were all intercepted by a burst of light swords that Balderdottir manifested by spinning her weapon. Then she directed a concentrated beam of her element at the enemy. His counterpart intercepted him with an ice barrier, which, while not dense enough to be an effective shield, had all the properties of a mirror. The vortex of Shinji's Kamui was enough to dissipate the beam and then unleash ceramic missiles that were launched at all enemies. However, the projectiles were detonated in midair by an electrical discharge from Aldrich. Huh? I thought we'd already dealt with you guys, the blue-haired man said mockingly. I can handle the power of a storm, a lightning bolt to the chest is nothing, Shinji said. My body doesn't have the same requirements as a human. Lack of oxygen isn't a problem. I just acted according to the situation, Balderdottir said. That trap was too weak to hold me. It was easy to fly out of it, Kushina said. Don't be surprised, Aldrich, said Ifrit. Sakura had already warned us that our adversaries were not ordinary shinobi and that they possessed great resilience. As if that mattered. They'll be eliminated anyway. We don't need to go that far. They might listen to reason and decide to follow us. Follow them? Naruto asked. Of course. Shiva already explained our intentions to you. We must cleanse this world of the humans who have distorted the use of the chakra. And how do they plan to do such a thing? Simple. We'll start by destroying all the major ninja villages and their allies. I see. So what Ifrit was unable to continue his words due to the sudden lightning strike that hit him. However, he did not hit him because Aldrich stopped him in his tracks and then dispersed him. I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to negotiate anything with you. I cannot allow you to carry out the destruction you're planning. What a shame. I had hoped God would agree with our intentions, but this only proves what they say, Ifrit said before creating a massive sphere of flames. Even gods can be wrong, he added before hurling it at the group. Suiton. Water barrier, Naruto exclaimed, beginning to raise a tidal wave to protect everyone. Not so fast, Shiva said, stopping the water with his hands. It's not like I'm going to let you use my element in battle. Naruto then gave his companion a hard look while Balderdottir used a swift greatsword to split the fire projectile in two and make it collapse. Thank you, the blonde man said to the pink-haired woman. You're welcome. I just hope you're happy with your decision. We would have evened the score if you'd let me attack your partner. First of all, it's a fact that you wouldn't have been able to harm her body anyway. Second, she must be being manipulated or something. I don't believe they're acting like this just for the sake of it. As far as I remember, Shisui had a lot of affection for Konoha and I don't think Temari would destroy his village so lightly. Could you talk another time? Kushina asked them. Those guys don't mess around, she said, looking at some rock snakes that Akatsuki had summoned. Then the Redeed made her axes return to her hands and destroyed the beings when they came for her. That's right. Shinji, what do you know about these guys? Not much, he said, taking care to absorb Sylph and Shiva's attacks. In my world, there's no one with the title they hold. I'm interested in learning more about your skills. In that case, I have good news and bad news. Their powers are the result of a complete synchronization of their bodies with the element they are attuned to. I should mention that it's not easy. Most elemental manipulation users reach old age without ever even coming close to that feat. And what about those who do? Balderdottir asked. They become immortal. That's bad news, Kushina said. No. The good news is that we have that information. The bad news is that I don't know how we can fight it. Because. There's a small chance I fell asleep during that class, the purple-haired boy said sheepishly. You don't need to worry about that. We are invincible, Aldrich said, launching multiple green beams at the group. Say that when you use something really effective, Naruto said, blocking the lightning with his hands. What the hell are you doing, Aldrich? Sylph demanded. Finish them off already. I can't. It seems he has the same control as me. The blue-haired boy complained. Don't talk nonsense. It's no surprise that Naruto can do that, surely Dad wouldn't have any problem using his weather control against those guys, Kushina said. That's likely. For now, just make sure to keep them separate. We can use their opposite elements if we keep them separate. Understood, said the other three, then each took an opponent. Naruto didn't have to do it, as Sylph and Ifrit decided it was only right that they deal with the blonde boy together. They combined their powers and created a fire tornado against him. Without hesitation, the Uzumaki faced the embers head-on, performing a Kakuo Shundo and then executing an Akatsu, single bone, against the Uchiha. Its effectiveness wasn't very evident as the dark-haired man dissolved in flames and then his sister created a wind scythe against her enemy. To avoid any problems, Naruto activated his Mangekyo Rinnegan and used the animal path to cover his arms with the metallic scales of a Kushalade aura. Its skin was designed to withstand strong winds so they could deal with Temari's attack. With the aerial blade destroyed, Naruto tried coating his hands in haki, transforming them into claws. Then he attacked the girl with them. Unfortunately, the blow to the air proved completely useless and Sylph caused the area around Naruto to fill with a strange type of gas. Ifrit then only had to create a spark to engulf his opponent in a massive explosion. Another somewhat uneven fight was that of the two Sakuras. Although Beelzebub mastered an element unaffected by her opponent's control, Shiva knew how to counter it very well. For example, one of her light arrows was transformed into a terrifying booby trap thanks to the strategic use of an ice mirror chamber. Furthermore, her strength and techniques were easily evaded by the other pink-haired girl's body of water. "I'm going to evaporate you," exclaimed the armored girl with a powerful beam of light. "So what?" Shiva said, willingly taking the attack and vanishing. Then a fierce blizzard surrounded Beelzebub with tiny, sharp shards of ice. "For me, changing my state is extremely simple. It doesn't matter. In that case, I'll just have to break you," said the other Sakura, enveloping herself in a warm light that protected her. "You know what? It wouldn't cost me anything to rip the electricity out of your body," Aldrich said, using the Kiba's swords to press against Shinji, who was using a pair of katanas to defend himself. "You can't do that if I convert my electrical energy into chakra and then use this," said the purple-haired man, spitting out a stream of blue fire, which Kuritsuchi absorbed, turning into a lightning bolt. "Thank you. Now I can do this," Aldrich said before creating a hyperheated plasma beam. "Oh," said the boy before being hit. Kushina was the one in the most trouble. Since she could destroy the boulders Hashmal threw at her, he began attacking her with a sandstorm that was very difficult to counter with her axes. "Stop playing games and fight like a man," the Redeed said to the guy floating on a rock platform. "Make me," said the burly man as he surrounded the girl with two rock bulls that struck her simultaneously, intending to crush her. She stopped them by dropping her weapons, but the constructs still pressed on. After taking a deep breath, she pressed hard, grabbed both beasts by the horns, and lifted them up to hurl the matter enemy, who needed only a snap to undo his puppets. "Not bad. Now how do you deal with this?" Hashmal said, spitting a stream of acid at the Redeed, who reacted in time and dodged it. "How disgusting," said Kushina, looking at the trench that had been dug. "Do you like it? It doesn't cost me anything to gather the toxic compounds from the earth and make a powerful poison with them." "I'll shut your mouth before you can do that trick again." "I don't need my mouth to use this ability," Hashmal said, summoning mud snakes that revealed poisonous purple fangs. "This doesn't look good at all," Kushina said, noticing a bronze axe flying towards her. She intercepted it and felt an icy aura emanating from it. "Use it. It will help you," Naruto told her. "Thank you," said the Redeed, sending an icy wave at the land reptiles, which froze and crumbled into pieces. "Don't get too cocky just because you stopped that attack. Once Shiva finishes off his opponent, it will be useless," Hashmal said. "I wouldn't count on that. That weapon doesn't manipulate ice, it manipulates temperature, and that's not something they can deliberately avoid," Naruto said, pointing at a completely frozen Temari with his bronze sword. "Even if her body were made of only air, I could force her molecules to remain solid." "This will not stand," said Ifrit, surrounding his sister with a circle of fire, then attacking Naruto with an ethereal green spear covered in black flames. "That's it," said Naruto, blocking the attack with his shield. "That's correct. This is Amaterasu. I only wanted to use the powers my father gave me, but you deserve that I use what I took," said the black-haired man with a Mangekyo Sharingan that consisted of 3 tomo surrounding the pupil in a ring with Y-shaped branches. "Hey, curly-haired one. I don't mean to be a harbinger of doom, but I'm afraid to inform you that those are Madara Sharingan," commented a smoking Shinji covered by his Susanoo no Yoroi before being attacked by another burst of plasma from Aldrich. "That answers some things," said Naruto, stepping away from the sea of black flames created by the Uchiha. "It's rather embarrassing that I didn't obtain the Mangekyo Sharingan on my own, but I was lucky enough to run into that fellow," Ifrit declared. "He thought he could use me to capture the Bijuu, but I found he'd be more useful as firewood. I won't mourn such a death, but it's now much clearer that you're a danger to the world," he said, creating a massive chakra sphere in his hands. "Cho Adamura Sengen," the blonde man shouted before launching himself at his enemy. "Susanoo launch," said Ifrit, using the weapon to destroy Naruto's attack and then hitting him in the stomach with a pseudo-flame drill. The blow slammed Naruto into the ground and he began to melt from the intense heat of Ifrit's attack. The dark-haired boy planned to focus all his energy on the weapon until he was certain his opponent had been reduced to ashes, but a sudden burst of light stopped him and pushed him aside. Celestial beams, said Balderdottir, emitting bursts of light beams from her hands that forced the Uchiha to dissolve in flames and take a step back. What happened? Celestial body magic. A magic that combines light and gravity, areas I've mastered perfectly, Sakura said, striking a new pose and then releasing a sphere of light. Celestial palm. She exclaimed, attacking Ifrit. Damn it. Where is Shiva? The Uchiha exclaimed, looking in the direction where his sister was supposed to be. The pink-haired woman in question was unconscious after being hit directly by one of her counterpart spells. Sakura, what is that technique? Naruto asked, emerging from the hole he was in. It is the result of the training I underwent after you left the Tsukihime dimension. Did you do that much with that book of Shinji's? The information there was too confusing to provide me with relevant practical knowledge. This was thanks to the power of Tsukihime. Not bad. It doesn't matter what you use. We'll finish you off anyway, said a sylph, now thawed, as she attacked the pair with 2 wind blades. Celestial beam, Sakura chanted, striking Tamari with 3 luminous pillars. What? Exclaimed the blonde, who fell unconscious after being hit by the ferocious attack. This scene really depresses me. Maybe I should have stayed in Spyro a little longer and learned magic like Sakura, Shinji said, dodging his opponent's attacks. Learning 1 or 2 spells wouldn't be so bad. Do you really think it's safe to get distracted like that while you're fighting me? Aldrich said, settling into furious attacks. You're right. You'd better distract yourself with this, said the purple-haired man before summoning 2 replicas of himself from Kamui portals. Both had the Rinnegan in their eyes. Some Kagebushin won't be able to do anything against me, he said, unleashing a stream of lightning to destroy them. These aren't shadow claws, the dark-haired man said, ordering one of his replicas to stand in front of the attack. It acted as a lightning rod, stopping the entire attack with its hands, then transformed its arms into cannons and fired 2 chakra lasers. Useless, Aldrich said, repeating his last attack to counterattack. This left him at the mercy of the other replica, which grabbed his head with both hands. Now be a good boy and tell your secrets to my human path, said Shinji. Don't think I'll let you do whatever you want, said the blue-haired man, dispersing into several beams. Oh no. You won't escape, Shinji said, ordering his Asura path to fire projectiles at the ground. These plunged into the ground and deployed intricate metal antennae. These acted as lightning rods and pulled Aldrich to the ground. What the hell? Said the trapped blue-haired man. So you've mastered the 6 paths of pain. Now I always considered that technique an abomination, Sakura said upon seeing the scene. Really? I find it interesting, said Shinji. That doesn't matter. We must take advantage of the fact that we've managed to turn the tables in our favor, Naruto said, looking at Kushina. What's wrong? You don't seem as confident as before, the Redeed said to Hashmal, who saw one of his arms fold due to the sudden freezing of it. That's it. It's time I show you my true power, Akatsuki said. Stop, Hashmal, Ifrit told him. We need to retreat and reorganize our strategy. I'll buy you time to escape. Understood, brother, said the man, pressing himself heavily to the ground and causing domes of earth to envelop his fallen brothers. They're not going anywhere. Naruto warned him. You're not in a position to stop us, the Uchiha said with a sigh. I didn't think it would come to this against you, but I need to make it clear that there's nothing you can do against us. Then a vortex of flames engulfed the dark-haired man and spread over an area of at least 20 meters. It wasn't a particularly impressive sight for the young men who had already witnessed high-caliber fire release techniques, but the amount of chakra his opponent emitted was overwhelming. Kushina. Shinji. Go to the village and get everyone away from here immediately, said Naruto. What? Exclaimed the Redeed. Things are going to get more intense and I don't want anyone around. Okay, said the girl, before being transported by the purple-haired boy. You're only delaying the inevitable, Uzumaki, said Ifrit, starting to walk towards Naruto and Sakura, it being noted that each step he took caused a slight tremor. Everything will be destroyed by us, he said, beginning to emerge from the flames. But what? Sakura said, completely bewildered by Shisui's appearance. Now standing about 4 meters tall, with striking red skin and disproportionate muscle mass, the Uchiha no longer appeared human. 2 large V-shaped horns protruded from his head, where his hair had been replaced by flames, and his upper fangs had grown longer. His lower torso resembled that of a satyr, only more robust. His wrists and ankles were encircled by shackles whose chains trailed with trails of flame. Only a tattered loincloth with a skull belt was the creature's attire, adorned with a single golden ornament on his bare chest. Although the sclera of his eyes had turned completely black, the Mangekyo Sharingan he had stolen was still visible within them. Behold my true form, for surely you have never seen anything like it, said Ifrit. Actually, we have, but they haven't been as bad as you, said Naruto. Mock him now while you can. This will be his funeral, said the now demonic Uchiha, looking at the pair. We'll see about that. Celestial beams. Sakura said, launching an attack with pillars of light. Ifrit deflected the magic with a single blow and then lashed out with a punch at the young woman, who felt as if her armor threatened to melt into her skin due to the extreme temperature it reached upon contact with her enemy. About 20 ice projectiles were launched by Naruto at his enemy, but each one dissolved before it could hit. He immediately changed tactics and performed a lightning release. Shundo to launch a full body charge at Ifrit's stomach. Ha! You may be strong, but in this form that means nothing, Ifrit said, grabbing Naruto and throwing him aside without much effort. Orson only took advantage of the distance and began to create a Raiden. Rasen Shuriken, which took the form of a saw in contrast to the shuriken form of the others. The speed of this jutsu was superior to that of its alternate versions, but that did not prevent it from being caught by Ifrit's hands, who contained the core in his hands, while the electric halo expanded to cut him. The fire being managed to destroy the technique before it detonated, and although that caused him to receive a good shock, he was not greatly affected. Seeing that her opponent was only moderately affected by the physical attacks, Sakura tore open the earth and sent a dozen boulders flying into the sky. Then she placed them all under the effects of earth release. Ultra-heavy rock to increase the damage they would inflict. Ifrit only had to wave his chains of fire to slice through the rock and reduce all the projectiles to mere pebbles. This, however, exposed him to Naruto, who connected the double version of Akatsuki in the beast's stomach with a special addition. Yuzokoka. Sakatsu hardened armor. Double bone, said the Uzumaki, unleashing a powerful strike that created a shockwave that pierced Ifrit and damaged the surrounding area. The size of my opponents has never been a problem for me, the blonde said to his seemingly injured opponent. And what about the size of their techniques? Ifrit said, roaring as he pushed Naruto and Sakura aside. The ground around him began to melt as Ifrit was engulfed in a blanket of flames that distorted everything with the intense heat. A pair of fire orbs appeared in his hands and began to grow exponentially. We can't let him finish what he's planning, Sakura warned. You don't have to tell me, Naruto replied. Sakura then formed a large dark spiral around her body, reminiscent of the night sky. Naruto, meanwhile, created about 20 clones, who began forming as many Rasengans as they could. Alteris, said Baldur's Daughter, unleashing crushing gravitational magic against her opponent. Hyoten. Rasen Shuriken, said all the blondes, then launched the entire wave of icy projectiles. Scorched earth, said Ifrit, then struck the spheres in his hands. As if a new world were being created, a ring of fire expanded beneath Ifrit, leaving behind a completely black and scorched ground. The surrounding water evaporated and the trapped trees instantly turned to ash. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken dissipated without any opposition, and even though Sakura's technique did not constitute any physical element, it was reduced to nothing anyway. Before Sakura realized the danger of the attack, everything turned dark. Some time later. When Sakura regained consciousness, all she could see was the complete darkness that enveloped her. When she tried to get up, she bumped into a hard surface that prevented her from moving, and in front of her was something that gave off the smell of burnt flesh. Quick, Shinji. They must be here. Came a voice from outside. Sakura guessed it was Kushina. And how am I supposed to get them out of there? His companion exclaimed. That thing is solid. Transport them something. Oh right. Just let me locate his chakra and that's it. Then Sakura found herself outside that enclosure, which turned out to be a kind of black rock pyramid. It was impossible to miss, as it was the only thing visible for miles around. The place where Tsuba had been was reduced to a barren, blackened wasteland. I'm not sure if this is a good time, but I think we need your medical skills, Sakura, Shinji said to the stunned girl, pointing to a badly injured and unconscious Naruto. The Uzumaki had severe burns on his face and torso, which were nothing compared to the state of his arms, which were extremely damaged and almost charred. What the hell? I need water right now, said the pink-haired girl, removing the armor from her arms. That's funny because that's what started this whole mess, Shinji said. I'm not in the mood for jokes. Okay, said the purple-haired man, making a jar of water appear along with some medical implements that he thought would be useful for the doctor. Hours later, at the Uzumaki mansion. Arg. Damn it. Naruto exclaimed as pain assaulted him upon waking up in his bed. Take it easy, buddy, Kurama advised. You're not exactly at 100%. What happened? The young man asked, noticing his bandaged arms and one eye patched. You stood before hell and you survived, that's what happened, said Shinji, who entered the place along with Sakura and Kushina. To be clear, Ifrit attacked us and you somehow defended me, said the Baldur's Daughter. I remember now. I decided to take a risk and used some earth release to summon a volcanic rock. I figured that would be the only thing that could protect Sakura and me. Making that barrier into a pyramid shape was a good move, Shinji said. It didn't offer much resistance to Ifrit's attack and that prevented it from being compromised. No. That technique wasn't a simple burst of flame that could be stopped by a trick like that. I had to use all my haki to strengthen it and my chakra to keep the inside cool with Hyoten. That explains why your arms were so damaged. Be thankful your armor prevented further damage. For a moment I thought you were going to lose your arms, Sakura said. Is it something very serious? Naruto asked. It will take you a few days to fully recover. I suggest you avoid hitting things for the time being. I can't promise anything, the blonde man sighed. What happened to Ifrit? I escape. Damn it. What? No idea. When we found them, they had already disappeared, Kushina said. And how long did what they were doing take them? Sakura asked. About that we weren't able to rescue everyone, the redhead said sadly. But Tsuba wasn't such a big town, said the pink-haired girl, impressed by the news. Kushina isn't being precise. She did manage to get everyone out of the village, but those in the surrounding area weren't so lucky. What are they talking about? Ifrit's attack had a radius of about 3 kilometers. We barely managed to escape when he released him. This is serious. I thought we could deal with those guys without involving others, but it seems I was very naive, Naruto said. It's only a matter of time before this disaster becomes known throughout the nations. I fear for the repercussions for the cage, Sakura said. That's the least of it. If you had problems, I highly doubt they stand a chance, said the Kyuubi. That's exactly what worries me, Naruto said. At first, it seemed like they were really fed up with their ability to become incorporeal and turn the elements against us, but they also possess raw power comparable to that of a Biju. I hate to admit it, but it was tough fighting with just my chakra. Being separated from you hasn't been very practical, has it? I'm not criticizing anything, Kurama. It's just annoying that those guys are making all my nature manipulation training useless. At least we now know that there are ways to hurt them, Sakura said. That's right. I think I should have guessed that pure chakra and magic-based attacks could affect them, Shinji said. I suppose sealing them away would also be a good way to take them out of the game permanently. Since you're the most knowledgeable on the subject, can you contribute anything useful about those individuals? The pink-haired woman asked. I already told you I don't know anything. It's the first time I've seen someone with elemental manipulation take on an appearance like that. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that they have greater access to chakra than people in my world. The truth is, since Tsukahime seemed to know about this threat, it would be best if you spoke with her to learn more about your enemy. I can't risk visiting her right now. I must keep all my attention on Konoha, Naruto said. Then I'll take care of visiting her, Kushina said. No. We will fight with what we know and have. I cannot allow those individuals to achieve their objective, and we must go on the offensive. Oh, well. I guess that's my cue to get the hell out of here, Shinji said. Bazadon Tsukahime. No way. I've already satisfied my curiosity by observing the subjects responsible for that post-apocalyptic scenario we were in, and now I want to explore the mystery presented to me by the redhead present. What do you mean? Said the girl in question. I'm going to look for that counterpart of mine that you call cousin. Oh really? Yes. There are questions about myself that I want to answer, and it seems more productive for me to go and resolve them than to get involved in a battle I don't belong in. And how do you plan to do it? You said you needed my help to get back to your world, Naruto said. I'll improvise. I have a feeling that if I add the power of the Biju I don't know to my strength, I could achieve some new things. I suggest you do the same. It will be easy to persuade my brothers to cooperate with Naruto, but don't think you'll be so lucky, said Kurama. Ha! Don't underestimate me, Fox. There are many ways I can convince them. Convince is not even remotely the right word for what you did to me, Matatabi said from the purple-haired man's shoulder. What you did was. I remind you that your Jinchuriki was responsible for everything that happened. I was just innocently looking for a book and was attacked by that nymphomaniac. It's not Yujito's fault. I thought my sister was inside you and… Huh? Since when do you get along with Kakyo? Said Kurama. The cat isn't talking about herself, Shinji said. So who? No idea. I left the dimension where I had that mishap when my weirdness meter screamed at me to get out of there as soon as possible. Leave it at that, Kurama. It's a subject best left untouched, said Niobe. Excuse me, but I'm not following anything you're saying, and frankly, I don't care at all, Naruto complained. If you're going to leave, just do it, Shinji said. What a sourpuss. If you need anything from me, don't bother calling, said the purple-haired man before disappearing with his Kamui. I don't know whether to be relieved that he's gone or disturbed by the existence of another one like him, Sakura said. It doesn't matter, said Naruto, looking thoughtful. What's happening? I just think we'll need backup, the blonde man said with a long sigh. I hope my comrades are worthy of their rank, because I have plans for them. Chapter 31. In the Forest of Death. Gulp. Is this some kind of joke or what? Menma asked, looking at his brother with doubt. Absolutely not. You will fight me right now. Use your full power if you wish, Naruto said, pointing at the blonde with his good arm. His other arm was bandaged and tied in a sling. Both Uzumaki were high in the branches of the gigantic trees that characterized the Forest of Death. Naruto had summoned all the shinobi with whom he had graduated to that place. He hoped they would be willing to help him in his next battle to avoid the need for open war against the Five Kings. He trusted Jiraiya wouldn't do anything reckless, but he knew other Kage and rulers would try to exploit the situation and cause unnecessary conflict. The key detail is that he first needed to test his companion's capabilities against non-human enemies, such as the Five Kings. I'm asking the same thing. Are you playing a joke on us? Kiba asked Kushina and Sakura elder daughter. No. He thought it was a good idea to test his skills, said the pink-haired girl. For what reason? Shikamaru asked. If they show sufficient merit, we will tell them. Very well, Naruto. I won't deny I was expecting this moment, Menma said, cracking his knuckles. However, it bothers me that you chose to face me precisely when you're weakened. Don't worry. I'll adjust things to make this encounter fit for what I want to test, Naruto said, then activated his Mangekyo Rinnegan and activated Aesir. Ruler of Thunder. After a loud crash that threw Menma several meters through the Forest of Death, he finally regained his footing and saw that part of it had been replaced by a gaping hole occupied by a giant purple electric creature. What the hell? Said Neji upon seeing such a conglomeration of Raiten chakra. Naruto doesn't mess around, Choji said, comparing the size of the colossus to that of his clan members when using the Chobaiken no Jutsu. You don't have to be a genius to know that a touch of that thing would kill someone instantly, Sasuke said, looking at him with his Sharingan. It must be stronger than the Susanoo. Naruto has enough control over that technique not to fry everything he touches. In terms of power, he surpasses him, but I have to admit that Susanoo also has its advantages, Sakura commented. Menma is strong, but I don't think he can do it alone, Nasumi said. That's why Naruto asked me to tell you that you can help him. He knows his brother won't accept your help at first. However, that boy will need it if he wants to win. I doubt any of us have a technique that can counter that thing, Shikamaru commented. So why don't you think of a combination, Nara? I'm sure you'll come up with something, said elder daughter, giving her a challenging look. How troublesome, commented the pineapple-haired boy, watching as one of the Aesir's arms moved against Menma. In a very distant place. You know, father. You were very naive, said Ifrit, toying with a fireball as he gazed at the night sky. You said the Otsutsuki were weak for relying on the power of the Shinju, but nowadays they're the ones who can run rampant. Are you okay, brother? Sakura asked him. Why wouldn't I be, Shiva? Ifrit said, offering him a smile. Excuse me. It's just that those things, said the pink-haired girl, pointing at the aforementioned boy's head. This? He said, looking at his flaming horns. Don't worry. It's just a sign that I'm returning to my former glory. If you say so. I see you haven't fully recovered your memories yet, sister. You don't remember our identities. I'm sorry. My mind is still confused. I'm afraid to say that I'm still more Sakura Haruno than Shiva. Then let me refresh your memory. Do you know about the Otsutsuki? No. It's quite unfortunate and curious. It's thanks to the help of that race that humans have progressed so much. Without them, they wouldn't have acquired the chakra affinity they now boast of. But all living creatures have a chakra affinity, Sakura questioned. That's true. However, not everyone has the ability to retain vast amounts of that energy in their bodies or manipulate small portions to create the illustrious ninjutsu. Some are born with affinities to different kinds of chakra and others can even create their own variety. Our case is the former. We are attuned to elemental chakra, the kind that allows the planet to sustain life, the dark-haired man said, molding a sphere of lava with his hands. I'm not referring to animal or plant life. I'm referring to all the activities that allow the world to be the place we know. Every breeze, raindrop, tremor, lightning flash, or fire is a sign of what I'm talking about. Without them, the planet would be nothing more than an inert speck of dust in the cosmos. I understand, said Shiva, forming his own elemental sphere with water. The name of our race is Espers. While we are all related, we cannot really be considered a family or clan, so a surname cannot represent us. I am afraid to say that, as such, our race was not very developed. The idea of establishing a civilization was contrary to our philosophy of living in harmony with nature. Why did they change it? We were annihilated, the horned man said dryly. If we can identify ourselves as representatives of life, then the Otsutsuki are inevitably representatives of death. They are a disease to any place they go. They are nothing but parasites seeking chakra to satisfy their hunger and ambitions for power. They go from planet to planet consuming the energy of each one until they exhaust it and leave it sterile. In short, they are enemies of life and of us. So those who are heirs of the Otsutsuki are also enemies. That's correct. Although humans don't have as high a rate of consumption as the original Otsutsuki, it's only a matter of time before they bring this world to its destruction. But you've probably already realized that we're a contradiction. Even though we have the power of the espers with us, our bodies are inevitably tainted by the Otsutsuki essence, Ifrit said, clenching his fists. And of all of us, I'm the worst. I saw the opportunity to take the Rinnegan, the Otsutsuki's signature power, and I ended up stooping to their level. Brother, Shiva said worriedly. But my condition shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. Current conditions make the revival of the espers from 1,000 years ago impossible. Returning to that same lifestyle is pointless. So what is our goal? Remake the world. We will create a world where the descendants of the Otsutsuki must learn to respect their home and no longer covet what they shouldn't. I understand. That's why you want us to destroy the ninja villages. It's obvious that humans won't give up their way of life just like that. We'll take away their leaders and break their will. Only then can we become their rulers. What will we do with Naruto and his friends? We already gave them an option and they refused. Therefore, their annihilation is inevitable. Do you think you can take them all on by yourself? I know you were able to defeat him, but they'll surely be ready to counterattack. That's why we'll dedicate ourselves to helping you fully awaken, sister. Not just your memories, but your true form. In the forest of death. Enten. Devastation said Menma, directing a blow against the face of Naruto's Aesir, with a pair of long claws of black fire manifesting in his hands. The blonde man blocked the attack by crossing his arms with his construct, thus avoiding the fiery X that formed after Menma's impact. Your style is curious, Naruto commented. I used that style for most of my life. I wasn't going to stop using it just because I don't have that silly fox inside me anymore, the other Uzumaki declared. I just hope that means you've improved it, because here's my attack. Thunder Ruler's battle cry. Naruto said with a snap of his fingers. Living up to the name of the technique, the Aesir moved as if he were letting out a scream, one that was extremely deafening because it was like 100 lightning bolts exploding. Menma was forced to block out the attack, which prevented her from focusing her attention on the sky. It began to open up and a shower of small lightning bolts began to appear. The Thunder Ruler's battle cry was basically a contradiction as the thunder came before the lightning, leaving his victim disoriented by the relentless voltaic downpour. The young Uzumaki was defenseless against his brother's attack, but a red flash caused the danger to be lessened. Gyuden. Great Barrier of Tempest, Shizuka said as she surrounded Menma and Natsumi with a circular wall of wind that dissipated the lightning that fell upon them. What are you doing here? Menma exclaimed. A thank you for the help would be nice, said the white-haired woman. You won't defeat him, brother. At least not alone. We need to work as a team, Natsumi said, holding a Hiraishin kunai. No way. I'm going to finish this fight myself, Menma replied, drawing a katana-like sword. The point here isn't that you beat him single-handedly. The issue is that we all see Naruto as invincible. An image that has certainly worsened in recent years. I don't need you to remind me. If I have to. While not all of us explicitly want to defeat Naruto, we do want to bridge the gap between him and us. That's why we're all willing to work with you and devise a strategy to defeat him. Why are they so confident about it? It might not seem like it, but we have an age advantage over Naruto. We have more experience than him. Fine. I'll accept your help, Menma said reluctantly. But only because I didn't know Naruto had developed such a powerful technique. That's a good first step, Shizuka commented with a hint of mockery. What do you propose? You've barely made a dent in him with your Enten. We need to be sensible and use the opposite element to the one our brother is using, Natsumi said. I prefer to stick with mine, and besides, I don't think you can hit it with your ninjutsu. There's nothing powerful enough to counter such a rate in formation. Sometimes great power isn't necessary, but good precision, said the Byakugan user. Uh-oh. Shizuka warned, putting the Uzumaki on alert. We need to move, she said, watching as the Aesir swung his left arm to strike her. If they're planning something, they need to execute it faster, said Naruto, directing the beams of his colossus at Shizuka's barrier. Then let me buy them some time, the blonde heard Sasuke say, who had jumped in the direction of the limb that would crush the others. Wind release. Void rake, the Uchiha said as he focused the tip of a very particular sword against the Aesir's arm. The limb was then pierced by an invisible force, which formed a hole that caused the arm to explode into a mass of sparks. Huh? Naruto exclaimed, then saw Sasuke perched in a treetop, wielding the rapier-type sword he'd given him years ago. The weapon was coated in a layer of wind-release chakra, a purple one at that. That's new. I couldn't always rely on arrows. This is a weapon that allows me to attack both up close and at a distance, said the Uchiha. Not bad, but that trick won't work a second time, Naruto said, using his construct's left arm to try and catch his opponent. We'll see about that, Sasuke said, repeating his technique and causing the giant to lose another arm. This is your chance, Shizuka warned. Okay, said Menma, leaving the barrier of the white-haired girl, accompanied by her sister. Attacking them head-on isn't an option, Naruto said as his construct's eyes glowed. The twins were forced to deflect the electric pillars, which began hurtling toward them as they raced toward Naruto. The distance between them was too great to use a Hiraishin kunai to close the gap. Hey, don't forget about me. Sasuke said, using the wind release. Void rake against the Isara's face. Although he received a direct hit, he was not at all affected by the black-haired man's jutsu. But what the exclaimed the Uchiha in disbelief. The reason wind release is stronger than lightning release is that wind release causes a powerful deionization process that weakens and dissipates electrical techniques. The exterior of the Thunder Ruler's main body resembles a storm cloud. It is an entity that cannot be dispelled by even a simple breeze. Then why aren't that thing's arms equally protected? Doesn't that make it weak? The Thunder Ruler's arms are not storm clouds. They are lightning bolts that emerge endlessly from him, said Naruto as 4 new, slender arms with claws emerged from the Aesir. Oh. Me and my big mouth, said Sasuke with a twitch in his eye. Can you handle this? Naruto said as he caused the 4 fists of his construct to go toward Sasuke. I'll have to level things up, Sasuke said as his Sharingan took the form of the Mangekyo. High release. Imperial Flowers of the Phoenix, said a young black-haired woman who landed next to Sasuke and emitted a triad of fiery projectiles that covered when she took the boy and abandoned the current position. Setsuna. Sasuke said, noticing his sister. Do I have to remind you not to abuse those eyes? The girl questioned. I must give it my all in this battle. Maybe, but you shouldn't exaggerate. Just one technique. I promise. Okay. At a new peak, Setsuna separated from her brother, who formed an ethereal purple creature around himself. Sasuke felt some discomfort from using Susanoo in its armored form, but it allowed him to create a bow coated with the same type of wind release he had used in his previous attacks. Naruto prepared to strike him, but in the blink of an eye all the arms of his construct were destroyed by the arrows that Sasuke fired. Now, Natsumi. Said Menma, who was next to the Redeed at the feet of the Aesir. Gyuten. Tatsumaki Kaiten V2, said Natsumi to form a whirlwind around herself, which Menma rode to be propelled upwards at extreme speed. Uzumaki Hijutsu. Adamantine hardening, said Menma as he applied a seal to his katana that noticeably increased the power of his weapon. The Aesir, who had lost his upper limbs, couldn't withstand the thrust Menma delivered to his face. Naruto was directly behind the point of impact, but his armor was thick enough to block the blade. However, his brother hadn't planned to use it. Enten. Detonation, he said, unleashing the power of his Amaterasu into his weapon, creating an explosion that engulfed the entire Aesir in black flames. I can't believe it. He did it, Kiba said. It seems so, Hyson said, staring intently at the scene. Menma. Natsumi cried, catching her twin brother, who had fallen after the explosion. The seal on her weapon hadn't prevented her from receiving an electric shock from the construct she had destroyed. I suppose it's inevitable that a technique like that has weaknesses, Shikamaru commented. A larger size means the user has to be more careful to protect themselves. It also makes the techniques more fragile. That's not necessarily true, Sakura commented. The cloud of smoke left by the destruction of Naruto's Thunder Ruler was stirred by a loud boom. Menma expected her brother to abandon his armor for a man-to-man fight, but what he did was the complete opposite. The dark clouds that covered the area subsided, giving way to a dust storm that began to form. The ground shook, and dozens of rocks began to pile up in a humanoid shape that caused those present to suffer a nervous tic. You did a good job, but the day is still long and you haven't tasted the power of the Aesir. Lord of the Earth, said Naruto from the top of what looked like a mountain with legs. It seemed unreal how the colossal golem was supported by legs that resembled stalagmites. The construct's arms were massive, with metallic veins that made its strength seem incredible. It was definitely something Otsutsuki would want to possess. This is only the second of 5 tests I have for you. You're all jonin now, but tell me. Are you willing to face a god? Naruto said, then levitated a ring of enormous rocks. Because I want warriors willing to do it, he added, hurling them like projectiles. In a faraway place. In the heart of the rugged mountains of Earthland, it was easy for a person to get lost. To the naked eye, all directions looked the same. An endless expanse of rocky peaks stretching to the horizon. That was precisely the case of a particular dark-haired woman with a strong resemblance to Setsuna, who was racking her brains to figure out where she was. Aljuin, where the hell are we? The young woman in her 20s asked the enormous red-eyed shadow at her feet. I'm not the best person to explain it to you. Shouldn't you already know? Said the shadow. It's been ages since I've read a map of the Shinobi continent. And that's beside the point. The dark-haired girl protested. You were supposed to help me slip away from Tenten and the others, not make me get lost. You're making too much of a fuss over a minor setback. I accomplished my mission exactly as promised. The fact that you ended up far from the other's destination is an advantage in itself. They have the help of many trackers. Good. That's very true. But I'll still need to return to Yuzu to be able to tamper with the seal. Why can't that woman you control do it? AI is good with Yuinjutsu, but I need to use my Sharingan to do precise work. I learned enough from her to perform the operation on my own. Will you do it all by yourself? Okay. I'll still need a distraction to be able to act. I hope Akatsuki is still operating in this world. Since there are 3 Jinchuriki in Tenten's group, I doubt they won't help me. Then execute your plan promptly, Tsuki. Time is of the essence. Otsutsuki Uchiha. I don't need to use that fake name with you. As you wish, said the shadow, retreating and leaving the girl alone. Okay. Now, where should I go? The dark-haired woman said, looking around. Can I help you, miss? Satsuki heard a man say behind her. It depends, the girl said, turning around. Can you tell me where I am? No, but I'll tell you where you'll go, said Aldrich, charging an arc lamp. To hell. Chapter 32. In the distant persona. Without any delay, Naruto and Sakura found themselves inside the dark-haired girl's mental space. This space consisted of a Greek-looking temple, large enough to easily contain a biju. Such creatures were not there, but a raven-haired girl was reclining on a throne of pillows. She naturally lacked the wounds of her outward self and wore a pronounced expression of anger on her face, which only worsened upon seeing her guests. For the record, I will only refrain from making any insightful comments about your curious appearance because I am very angry, Satsuki told her visitors. Given your greeting, I have no doubt that you are Satsuki Uchiha, right? Said Naruto. That's correct. Furthermore, your strange comment confirms that you are the subjects I uselessly locked up in the Hall of Oblivion. Indeed. Of course, your trick didn't work very well, Sakura said. My apologies. It was a rash and poorly planned idea. I didn't think my Mangekyo Sharingan would be able to control them, so I took that route. As if I would let you control me. Anyway. What did you come for? Are you going to take advantage of my weakness to kill me? I knew teleporting to Konoha was a very bad idea, but it never occurred to me that someone would use that opportunity to attack me. Much less that it would be you. You don't deserve better treatment. Not after what you did to Naruto. Answer me. Why are you still so obsessed with that matter? The Uchiha inquired, her gaze intense. I find it hard to believe you haven't moved on with your life since that event. Is there some feeling you haven't revealed and is it eating you up inside? What? Sakura exclaimed, turning the same color as her hair. What on earth are you implying? Don't be so shy. I lived in a community run solely by women for years. Obviously, I saw relationships that went beyond friendship among the women there. That's irrelevant. Belderdada retorted. The only thing that matters here is that you must pay for your crimes, she said, regaining her serious expression. And tell me. Wouldn't killing me make you a criminal just like me? Satsuki said, smiling at Sakura, which only made her angrier. Not at all. I would only be doing justice. In that case, do as you please. I just hope you'll accept the consequences when your time comes, Satsuki said with a heavy sigh. Despite my absence, I'm sure Kali will mourn my loss and avenge my death, she said, staring intently at her former partner. Who is Kali? I refuse to rely on your pity to survive. You'll know that in due time. What? She already has a daughter. Came a voice from outside the temple. Naruto sighed in annoyance and went to the place in question, where he picked up the consciousnesses of Ino, Sasuke and Satsuna, who had arrived at the place a while ago, thanks to the Yamanaka techniques. The intruders quickly explained that the reason for their presence was their curiosity about the identity of the girl who had arrived at the hospital, due to the mention of her similarity to Satsuna, and they wanted to know what her relationship was with Naruto. Although the trio had subtly followed the pair of demigods in a stealthy and non-invasive manner, it was impossible for Yamanaka not to notice a certain thought that flashed through Satsuki's mind when she was questioned. Damn it. I always protected my mind from that other Yamanaka, and just when I'm weak, another meddler comes along. Satsuki bellowed. Hey. Don't call me nosy. Said the blonde. It's not like we're in a position to contradict him, Sasuke said. As if that mattered. Satsuna retorted, then pointed at the girl. Explain yourself. About what? Satsuki said apathetically to her counterpart. What do you mean, about what? Ino just found out you have a daughter and you have the nerve to give up on your life. And? Don't you understand that you have a responsibility towards her? Don't you think it's selfish to give up without considering her well-being? I'm aware of that. In fact, my current predicament stems from the plans I have to secure your future, the older Uchiha said with a sigh. Unfortunately, I ended up in the wrong place due to another absurd error of the universe. Error? Sakura said. That's the only way I can describe it. It's the same thing I explained to you when we met on Spire. Imagine reality suddenly shattering around you, allowing you to see things beyond your wildest imagination, all while ending up in a completely different world. That's why I disappeared from our world. If that's true, do you mean you left your daughter alone? Setsuna asked. Of course not. She's under her mother's protection, Satsuki said, making air quotes with her fingers and a face of disgust. Huh? You must understand that being a mage is not easy. I have to spend a lot of time studying and preparing my spells. Since my confrontation with Sakura and Naruto didn't go well, I found myself needing to entrust much of the responsibility of caring for Kali to a friend of her father, who offered to help me with her. I bet you left all the work to him in the end, Sakura said with a sour face. I'm afraid so, Satsuki said, biting her lip. And I'm really sorry. Putting up with Kali's whining is hard enough, but it was even worse to hear her call her nanny mom before me, the dark-haired girl said, biting a pillow. I imagine that was horrible, commented Ino, who somehow felt the suffering of the affected woman. Of course it was. I didn't show weakness, but it was quite a blow for me. I only didn't destroy that thief because I felt it would do too much harm to Kali. Heh. I can imagine why you felt so uncomfortable, Sakura said. I remember that one of your goals was to rebuild your clan after its destruction. That's no longer a goal I have to take so far. I'm happy just having a small family. Well, I don't understand exactly what you're planning. For starters, you seem unusually calm in my presence. Last time you were shocked to see me, and now you're accepting my judgment without question. I'm incredibly frustrated. That's what's happening to me, the Uchiha declared tersely. My goal is, and always will be, to become stronger. I put every ounce of myself into it. However, I always run into beings like you, this Naruto, and that damned guy who attacked me. It's inevitable that I'll come to the sad conclusion that their powers are simply too much for someone like me to ever hope to surpass. I think we can understand that feeling, Ino commented. Honestly, I think you're being far too ungrateful for what you've received, Sakura said. You were born into one of the most prestigious clans in the shinobi world and have had access to knowledge that others could only dream of. That may be true, but you'd really think that with so many blessings, I shouldn't have to deal with gods, monsters, or whatever you guys are. Power attracts power. It's natural that you'll find yourself involved in matters that sometimes escape your control, Naruto said. I suppose you're right. Now, if it's not too much trouble, would you be so kind as to tell me what happened to you? I mean, how were you attacked? I had a run-in with a guy in what I think was the land of Earth. I'm not sure, but after blowing up a couple of mountains and seeing that a couple dozen more were still intact, I'm resigned to the idea that I was in one of its rocky valleys. Identity? I can't give you a name. I only know he looked like a psychopath and had some very strange swords, Satsuki said, becoming thoughtful. I think they're kibas, she said, then confirmed her suspicion. Yes, definitely those. I remember seeing them in a document Hibiko wrote about the Swordsman of the Mist. Perfect. He's the one we're looking for. If that's the case, please kill him for me, will you? Someone needs to explain to him with some violence how a lady should not be treated. At least be grateful I didn't kill you, Sakura said. You weren't facing a weak enemy. I'm aware of that. Especially because of the fact that if I kill myself. Huh? Ino, Sasuke, and Setsuna said in confusion. I used a delayed spell. I saw that my end was imminent against one of his techniques, so I summoned an arise within myself. After being dead for 5 minutes, the spell activated and brought me back to the land of the living. The spell didn't exactly leave me in good shape, but at least it left me with enough strength to move to a safer place, like the Konoha hospital. Let me see if I understand you. You're saying you have a technique that allows you to revive people? Sakura said, pressing one hand to her temples, not fully understanding what she had heard. Its scope is limited, but basically, yes. Arise extends a deceased person's lifespan slightly so they can receive the necessary treatment to survive previous injuries. It's essential for a white mage to learn this skill to provide support to their team. What a waste. That you have something like that. I imagine that's what you want, and I'm afraid to tell you that it's not possible. Reviving Naruto is beyond my power. Arise only works on people who have been dead for less than a day. That's what I feared. Honestly, I wouldn't mind trying, as long as you stop bothering me, but the circumstances make my intervention impossible. Or do you perhaps have a way to return to our dimension and go back in time? Not exactly, but… We can ask for help from an acquaintance, Naruto said. Given the information we have, I doubt he'll refuse to lend a hand. Absolutely not. Sakura protested. We just got rid of him. I refuse to call on Lakasen for help. We can also request support from Tsukahime, but I think it's potentially less laborious if we get Shinji to collaborate. Shinji? Satsuki asked, intrigued. Are you talking about Shinji Uchiha? He's not an Uchiha. He must have just stolen the Sharingan somehow, Belderdada remarked reluctantly. His real name is Shinji Shihoin, and he has abilities that could be useful in ending this conflict, Naruto said. I know that playing with life and death isn't ideal, but I'd like the conflict between you two to end in a non-violent way, he said, looking at the two girls. Yes. Doing such a thing would leave a bad taste in my mouth. Especially after facing the Ito Tensei, but I would like Naruto to enjoy the life that was taken from her. I accept. If this plan will allow me to meet my beloved, of course I will help you. Your darling. Sakura said, confused. I'm surprised they haven't asked. It turns out Kali's father is the person they're talking about. Did I say something wrong? Said the last one to speak, feeling uncomfortable in the silence that had formed in her mental space. Lakusen's depravity never ceases to amaze me, Sakura said, looking somewhat green. Hey. What's with that disgusted face? The dark-haired girl exclaimed. I wish you didn't know, but here's the thing, Satsuki. You're not a normal person like you think you are. Just like me, Naruto, and Shinji, you're the daughter of a god. What? Said the dark-haired girl, bewildered. I don't deny your ability, but you must understand that it's unnatural for someone to be able to use both chakra and magic with the skill you possess. A normal human would have trouble manipulating both energies simultaneously. It certainly took me a while to learn how to cast spells, but then my companions were surprised by how quickly I mastered their arts. To be honest, I feel more comfortable using magic than ninjutsu. Your father is an expert sorcerer, so it's natural that this happens. Who do you say is my father? The god of mischief, Loki. Oh wow. That's unexpected, but it certainly explains a few things. Fugaku was never a good father and always looked down on me as a daughter. Of course, now I don't know if the one who raised me was the real Fugaku or the being they talk about. It was definitely the real one. Otherwise, my father would have noticed. It's likely. What's the case for you? My father is Boulder, the god of light, and Naruto's father is Thor, the god of thunder. Wow. Quite a revelation you had up your sleeve. You should have started with that and we could have avoided the fight on Spire. HMPH. Don't think you'll win me over. Even if you can revive Naruto, nothing will change between us. That's too bad. And I wanted you to explain a lot of things to me. You'll have to find someone else to answer your questions. That's a shame. But anyway, at least you can explain why everyone still looks so bewildered. They're still a bit disturbed. In case you didn't know, Shinji is also Loki's son. Huh? Satsuki said, shocked. Indeed, you two are siblings. However, you are not children of the same Loki. It's a complicated matter, but it doesn't change the fact that you are related. Oh my god, the dark-haired girl said, pressing her temples. I already have enough problems with Itachi and now you hit me with this. She said, looking uneasy. Was it too much to ask for a normal sibling relationship? She asked, practically begging the heavens. There's no need to stress so much. That kind of relationship isn't very uncommon in shinobi clans, Setsuna commented, clearly uncomfortable with the fact that she was comforting herself about such a topic. Yes. Even Naruto's sister confessed to me that at one point she felt attracted to him, Sasuke added. What? Naruto exclaimed, scandalized. You don't need to comfort me about that. There's something that worries me more and it doesn't directly affect me. What? Sakura asked. It's about my daughter. The thing is, Shinji doesn't know he's a father. That much is clear to me. Even if he's constantly hiding things, I doubt he's running away from something like that. How do you know? Sasuke asked. Feminine instinct. I've seen several men trying to escape that responsibility and their gaze is too revealing. Shinji's is more that of someone who doesn't know what to do with his life, which is certainly more worrying given his condition. Well, I hope she's happy to know she now has a well-defined goal. I'm truly pleased to have the opportunity to tell Kali she has a father, but it mortifies me not to have a story to tell her when she asks how she came into the world, Satsuki said. What do you mean? For all practical purposes, Shinji and I have never spoken to each other. We are complete strangers. But how? Didn't they do that? Not in the personal way that would be ideal. You didn't spend enough time with the Amazons to know their customs. One of them puts the clan restoration program to shame. And what does it consist of? I don't know if I should mention them to you. Ino, get the answer out of him, Sakura ordered. No way. At least leave me with some dignity, Satsuki demanded. Then speak. The Amazons avoid contact with men as much as possible, but they still need them when they want to have offspring. So, do you organize dates or what? No. We kidnap men we find worthy because of their skill or power, and then use them collectively in a ritual under the full moon. It's impossible not to say that the Amazons aren't a little crazy for using that method, but it's the only way to prevent one of the participants from developing feelings for one of the men and then betraying the Amazon principles, Satsuki explained. And who in their right mind would choose a being like Lockeson for such a thing? Sakura said with a twitch in her eye. We didn't do it. He somehow got in. Lucky bastard. I knew I should have followed Naruto to that dimension, Sasuke said, before receiving murderous glares from Ino and her sister. Itsumi will find out about this, Setsuna threatened, making Sasuke swallow nervously. I suppose it's natural that you didn't know about this, Satsuki said. I'm sure Shinji must have kept what he did to his friends from you too. Does he have any friends? Sakura commented sarcastically. It depends on who you ask. I could tell you a little about him if you answer some of my questions. Okay. Later. Naruto. Where are you? Kushina Thirstdaughter exclaimed as she arrived at the Uzumaki house. Behind her were Menma and Natsumi, who had already been discharged from the hospital and were back in action. I'm downstairs. Replied the blonde man from the basement of the house. The Uzumaki then went down to the lower floor of the mansion and found Naruto sharpening a huge scythe with a red blade and white skeletal ornaments. What is that? Kushina said, shocked to see such a threatening weapon. It's nothing important. It's just insurance in case Shinji doesn't want to cooperate on a certain matter, Naruto said as he attached all sorts of dark orbs to the weapon, causing a very sinister aura to envelop the artifact to the point that not even Menma wanted to have it in his possession. I don't understand why you'd need something like that for that, the Redeed said, clearing her thoughts to focus on what she was really going to say. Where did you go? We waited for you for hours. If Sakura hadn't told us to go home, we'd still be there. I'm sorry. Sakura's situation dragged on longer than it should have, and I couldn't get back to the hospital, Naruto said, turning his attention to his brothers. Well, I hope it was something very important, Menma declared. I'm not particularly bothered about being included in your test and all the waiting, but I still hope you'll clear up all the suspense you've left us with. What Menma means is that something is troubling us, Natsumi said. After seeing how strong you are, we have a great need to know what hurt you like that. I'm glad you're interested, since it's a matter that concerns you quite a bit, Naruto said with a serious expression. Unlike the dragons of years past, the problem we face is entirely unique to this world. You don't need to make a big deal out of it. It's not like we haven't faced dangerous enemies before, Menma said. You already know the truth about me. I am the son of a god. You may think I am the strongest being in the world, but that is far from the truth. Remember that we are children of the same mother, and therefore, I am as mortal as you. Oh, well. Such humility is appreciated, commented the other blonde man with a touch of sarcasm. I don't regret my condition, but the situation warrants that I need the power of others to resolve it. Right now, 5 beings have emerged who possess godlike power, and they plan to use it to reshape the world to their liking. Too bad for them. They messed with the wrong opponents. The thing is, I don't feel comfortable using my full strength against them. Not only because I feel it could cause a lot of damage to the surrounding area, but also because those involved are people we know. What do you mean? Natsumi asked. I can tell you firsthand that Sakura and Shisui are part of that group. What? Exclaimed the shocked twins. Hey. I understand things get weird around you, but are you seriously telling me that of all the people in the village, Shisui is involved with those gods of destruction? Menma said, quite impressed. Shisui is not involved. He is one of them and he is their leader. But how? I don't know if you ever met him, but he's definitely one of the most peaceful members of the Uchiha clan. You should have seen the arguments he had with Yugaku for refusing to follow his methods. Sasuke reacted the same way. He didn't believe me when I told him Shisui was the one who managed to hurt me like this, Naruto said, showing his arm, which surprised Menma even more. I still don't know exactly how, but it seems he's the reincarnation of a being called Ifrit. The same goes for those who claim to be his brothers. Wow. That's surprising and a little disturbing, Natsumi commented. When you say Sakura is involved, do you mean the one we know or the one who's always with you? I'm referring to Haruno. She took the name Shiva and has been manipulated by those people. I don't feel she shares the same conviction as her companions. It's understandable. Knowing her, I suppose she's only there to impress you. Huh? Said Naruto, somewhat confused. Hey Natsumi. Don't talk too much, Menma told her. Why not? It seems like a good time to talk about it, the Redeed replied. Basically, everyone in our generation knows that Sakura only bothered to get stronger because she wanted to get your attention. She thinks you wouldn't notice a mere mortal otherwise. Sakura made a lot of comments about the kind of relationship we have, but I didn't assume it was something like what you're saying, said Naruto. I don't know to what extent Sakura's personality is compromised, but I suggest you talk to her. Perhaps you can convince her to stop the crusade she's trying to wage. That's what I would like. Even with your help, facing the 5 I'm talking about will be a very difficult task. And can't your colleagues help you? Shinji chose not to get involved and left this world. Although we found a good replacement, I don't think she's on the same level. At least not in terms of experience and technique. Elder daughter can hold her own, but Kushina is at a disadvantage due to her inexperience with ninjutsu, Naruto explained. Judging from what I saw in the battle we had, I estimate that it would take at least 4 cage level ninja to face each of the enemies I'm talking about. Well, I think a team with me, Natsumi, Shizuka, Sasuke and Satsuna could counter one of your objectives, Menma commented. Not to brag, but we have the skill levels to meet your needs. The others could focus on another objective. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. In that case, let me tell you about our enemies in detail. Our lack of power must be compensated for with a good strategy. As you wish. Oh, by the way. This isn't really important, but I'd like to clarify that I am a goddess, Kushina said in a completely casual tone. Huh? The Uzumaki exclaimed, perplexed. Are you serious? Yes. Dad relinquished his position as the god of fertility and bequeathed it to my mother so she could become an Asgardian goddess like him. Only then did my grandfather Odin accept their relationship, the Redeed said proudly. That's completely surreal, Natsumi commented. Oh yes indeed. To think that someone like our mother became a goddess, Menma said. To tell you the truth, that would be terrifying. Completely. It just makes me angrier with mine. Couldn't he have done the same to our mother? Naruto said. I have no idea. I only know it wasn't a very good thing. Since we are the children of 2 gods, we had a greater chance of inheriting our parents' divine traits. So what? I'll just say that I like you a little better than my brother. He's always chasing Valkyries and mom yells at him for it. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.